Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dawn of Discernment. Today, my guest is my friend Marty Leeds. So, for anyone who doesn't know Marty, which maybe some of you, it'll be good to speak to somebody, introduce you to a new audience. The, um, this is what I've got. So, the Gnostic Church and Academy of Lord Jesus Christ was founded by Brother Marty Leeds and has been in operation since 2022. Brother Marty has been a working minister since 2011 and plays a special and extremely significant role as the Academy's head teacher, preacher, and spiritual leader. Marty has earned a place in the hearts and minds of thousands over the last decade by showing the merits of what he teaches, by leading by example and always keeping honour, integrity, dignity, a strong work ethic, and honesty as his core values. Marty is a documentarian, investigative journalist, poet, musician, has written, it says 10 plus books, but I think it's 12 now, isn't it?
I quit counting.
Oh, okay. It's
I don't know, like it's
more than 10 books.
after 10, I'm like, that's all my piggies, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, okay. Yeah, more than 10 books. Has had two successful podcasts, has made more than 12 documentary films, and has 13 music records to his name. He has done public speaking engagements across Canada and the United States. So, quite a variety of talents there. And it's more your kind of investigative skills that we'll be talking about. Well, I mean, they're talking about quite a lot of things here. So thank you very much for joining me, Marty. Really looking forward to this conversation. Um, we've got a few topics to discuss, and I think we're going to start with looking at DNA because you've put out a couple of videos lately on your channel, and there'll be links below in the show notes to Marty's Gnostic Academy YouTube and Rumble channels. Um, so the first point about DNA is that it's never been proven to exist, and that may be a surprise to some people. Hasn't been proven to exist as described. Whatever it is, we don't know if there's something going on, but it's not the way we've been told. And you did actually look in your video, you did look at the Tom Cowan's conversation with Alec on the way forward, which is a really good explanation. And they looked at the original paper, which I've actually downloaded myself, and I've marked all the points on the paper where it has what they call hedging language. So
mhm.
look at all those there where they're talking about things like we suggest, been proposed, we believe that, we wish to put forward, and there's all sorts of assumptions. So this is a definitive paper, and that's all the hedging language. So, but there's more to it. So I suppose really the starting point is what inspired you to really dive into looking into DNA and whether it exists.
Um, well, I think it's just sort of this alchemical process of just
Right.
constantly distilling things down to truth. Like I want the quintessence, so, and in our world, basically we're given explanations for all of these things, whatever it is, space, what's going on at the sub microscopic level, whatever the heck that means. And so I always knew the DNA thing was BS, right? Like because it's just, I mean, even this was probably like even 2 years ago or something like that. I was just like, oh, well, that's nonsense. There's nothing provable about it. But then I never kept going with it because I was busy with 10,000 other things, obviously, too. So then I was like, well, I'm going to do a sermon on this and just kind of patch it up in an hour and 20 minutes or whatever and just show like, hey, this is the photo 51, the alleged photo of DNA, and this is the alleged science behind it, and this is the first paper like you're showing. There's nothing provable about it. So I did that, and then as I did it, I didn't realize like how important the conversation was. Like I was just going to be like, yeah, DNA is junk, it's just nonsense, and then that was going to be it. But then it got into this whole thing of like the esoterica behind it and the symbolism behind it and actually what they were doing, which maybe you could talk about a little bit. But
Mm.
what ultimately it led to was just like, okay, so, how are they doing this then? Like if it's not DNA, if there aren't these codes made by chemicals at the bottom of you, then what are they doing? And as you said, it's a database of names and aliases. You might have said that prior to us hitting record, but that's what it
Yes.
is. It's basically a big magic show that's all done with, it's part of the technocracy, obviously, right? This is all technological wizardry, and they're couching it in these terms of like, oh, we've got the code of life, and we've got the machines to go in and read you and stuff like that. But really, what it is a massive database, and this database is everything on you, like literally everything. And that's what these are. And that's what those data centers are. And so what they're doing is it's a massive surveillance program, but it's based, its foundation is actually in DNA. It's in this alleged science that is completely unprovable. It's nonsense. It's hilarious. In fact, it's completely laughable when you actually start picking it apart. It's just like, what? So getting to the bottom of things, long story short, getting to the bottom of things, just wanting truth. And I knew this was nonsense. And so then it's just snowballed from there. Because then it was like, okay, well, if this is nonsense, then what are they actually doing? And now with that, you pretty much have the key, like literally the key to unlock what they're doing. This is a massive surveillance state. They're doing it on, BS science. And the science is that we've got all the information about you and your genetics and where you come from and all of this. So as soon as you expose DNA, and actually what it is, then the entire thing falls apart. All of it, all the science, all of the stuff behind it. So anyway.
It does. I mean, I was looking at sort of questioning, well, the idea of genes being in control a long time ago when I first came across Bruce Lipton's work, the biology of belief. And he was saying, genes don't control biology. So I came across that a while ago, but I hadn't gone into any depth as to what genes actually were. But the whole 2020 nonsense, brought out a lot of the whole gene stuff. And again, I mean, we can probably talk about that, all the different parts of the so-called truth movement and where some of them get stuck in some layers and they end up talking about gene therapy and all that stuff and missing
Mhm.
the point that there isn't, which I'd like us to go somewhat deeper into with what you've seen and what you've looked into. And as you say, it's about looking for truth. So it's getting rid of the lies, and it's not because we don't have to replace it with something, but it's still showing the lies. So I've been looking at it, and certainly the last couple of years, really diving deeper into genes. And, what are called genes are still hypothetical.
Hmm. Yep. And when the crazy thing that I'm pointing out with all of this is that how are they doing this, right? Like we can at this point prove, and we can get into all of this stuff. I don't want to just say this stuff, but not give the audience a line to follow there. But it's like we can prove that all of this like DNA, and we can prove that genes, and we can prove that atoms, they don't exist. But all of this stuff, the way they exist is that it's within our language. We just speak this stuff into being. People will say protons, neutrons, electrons. They will say genetics. Oh, it's in my genetics. Oh, it's in my DNA. None of this stuff exists. None of it's provable. None of it is, demonstrable, goes through any of the scientific method. Then we have to step back. And this is, I guess, where sort of our church comes in handy is that, well, then what is it? It's a magic spell. Then how do they do magic? It's abracadabra. They speak it into being. That's exactly how you do magic. You speak it into being. Protons, neutrons, electrons. No one's ever seen a proton, a neutron, an electron. No one's ever seen a virus. No one's ever seen DNA. No one's ever seen any atoms. But it's so embedded in our language that what creates the reality of it? Speaking. And this is how they do it with all universities too. I mean, a perfect example is I just had a conversation with the Dr. Steve Young, good friend of yours. He's just a great dude, really smart. And he literally went to college for 4 or 5 years and learned about quantum. He's never seen and that's what he got at the end of. He's like, well, I've never seen an atom. I've never seen quantum anything. I'm like the expert in it, and there's nothing to it. And that's just what you have to that's just the facts you have to come to. It's all nonsense. But then you have to once again go one step further. What is it? It's an agenda. And it's not only just an agenda, it is magic. These are wizards. This is what this is. This is dark wizardry. And yeah, so I guess that's where we come in, you know? So, because not only point out the lie, not only point out that it's unscientific, that's one thing, right? But then to say, okay, then what is it, right? If it's not science, then what is it? Okay, it's magic. Okay, then how do they do that magic? Exactly how it's done through the manipulation of language, and that gets into your psychology. Because how many people will even say, and this one of the first things that actually got me thinking, or actually got me on this thread, was Aline McCusick was at Elementals gathering,
Mhm.
and she said, "Oh, this is in my DNA," and then but then she stopped and she said, well, "I don't want to use DNA because Dr. Cowan's going to actually get really mad at me," and I was like, she's super onto something there, you know, because look at how DNA is. Everyone will just say it. Oh, it's in my DNA. No, it's not. There's no DNA there. So why are you saying that? Because it was repeated to you and you just believed it without ever examining it. No, there's not two snakes that are throwing proteins back and forth at sub microscopic levels that reduces you down to an acid that tells you all about where you come from and your, what a joke, you know? And yet that ridiculous explanation of like our code of life is just embedded in so many, even in the truther thing. And so what we're trying to do right now is like change the language, clean it up. And then all of a sudden your science goes away, you know? So
Yeah, yeah, totally. The words and the word magic. I mean, I think a lot of people are beginning to get it. Only it's getting through those habits. I mean, the Human Genome Project. I know you're aware that that didn't do what it claims to have done because it wasn't a single human that they mapped their entire genome. And so it's just so many deceptions as part of the story. But as you say, and with the psychological aspect of it, they've been doing psychology experiments for ages, and then they tell us a certain result. Or they say, oh, like the conformity experiments, and everyone conformed. Well, when you look at it, which I have done, looked at, or rather, I've found more work where people have studied what actually happened, and it's not actually quite what we're told, and it's not everybody who does it. So it's not like, oh, everybody conforms, so we're getting these stories, and you go, oh, well, everyone conforms. But in some, but there is always a percentage who don't.
mm,
And so that's where we can kind of start to gain some confidence. Well, there's always been a minority. I mean, 25% is, minority, but it's still a substantial number of people who say, no, thank you, or I'm not conforming. So, this is important to say, we can make a difference by saying no. So with the, yeah. Oh, when you first mentioned the DNA, the deoxyribose nucleic acid, that was the original with the S. And that's how
yes.
I knew it way,
Hmm.
way back when I was at school. That's how I um, remembered the phrase, with the S. So,
Hmm.
do you have any ideas why they changed that?
No,
Another spell?
I mean, yeah, like because yes, we could talk about that, but that I'd need some graphics and that sort of stuff. I was actually going to include that in the first one, but it just gets a little bit too convoluted, especially when you're throwing so much math at people. But basically, one of the things that we do is we actually show that all of the language, guanine, adenine, cytosine, thymine, all of the symbolism of the two snakes and the ladder, and all of that stuff is and deoxyribose nucleic acid. It's even a three-letter spell like CBS, ABC, NBC, DNA. Like if you had to make people remember deoxyribose nucleic acid, do you think that this spell would work? No, because people could barely even pronounce it. But if you say DNA, that's really stupid simple. Every boom, it's a magic spell right in your head. DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid. How many people are going to fall for the magic spell if they got to say that, you know? So what we're showing is that this is intentional. It's done by magicians. It's all done through language, which that's what magic is. People don't realize that magic, first and foremost, is spelling. Rites are writing, spells are spelling, seances are sentences. Okay. Everybody knows that when you say abracadabra, abracadabra means we create what we speak. So what these people are doing is they're just creating this reality, which we've all capitulated and agreed to. And all of it's 111% total bullshit and completely unscientific. And all of it's done through just speaking it into being. That's it. Showing you pictures. This is DNA. Here's the language. This is your life code. And everybody believes it for the most part, you know? So what we do is just try to unspell that magic. And the one thing that you can do, the first thing you can do is start taking the stuff out of your language, just like viruses. I don't say virus anymore, right? Like I'm a flat earther. I don't say globe anymore, right? I'll say celestial globe, whatever, but no, it's a flat plane or whatever, right? Same thing goes for genetics. Same thing goes for DNA. Same thing goes for atomism. So,
Absolutely, yes. Yes, I've been changing my language as well on the same basis. I mean, um, we're not going to talk about the latest nonsense that, whatever it is supposed to be crashing into the moon at the moment.
oh yeah, they're gonna create a new crater or something. Like, I mean,
Something
like,
like that's nonsense, isn't it? It's all nonsense, but it is designed to keep the same stories out there, to keep perpetuating, because that's the way that spells are. They kind of get their energy by constant repetition, and that's
yep.
how they know that, psychologically it's kind of, constant repetition, which is what they did in 2020. um
And they're also
yes.
with all of this, one of the things they're doing is trying to create a great bifurcation in humanity because they also
Mm.
know that there's a bunch of us that are gonna be like, this is all nonsense. Like whatever. Like when COVID hit, they knew that there was going to be a whole bunch of people that are like, just like us and you, whatever, almost immediately were like, this is absolute crap. They knew that, So just look at like Artemis 2. It's the same sort of thing. Why did we go back to the moon or whatever, right? Well, they knew that there's a bunch of people that are going to say it's nonsense. And they also knew that there's going to be a whole lot of people that would defend it with their life because that becomes their identity, their world, that becomes their religion, you know? So the magic spell, in one sense, it's a twofold kind of thing. They always do things for more than one reason. They didn't just do COVID to like kill off part of the population. No, there's
Oh yeah.
360 different reasons that they did it. And then the COVID is the center hub, and that goes for all of this sort of stuff. So one of the things they're doing is not only to keep that narrative going of whatever it is, a virus is going to kill you, it's going to kill grandmother, we're spinning, atoms is whatever, genetics, all of that sort of stuff. But then it's also to create this divide because that's obviously what they want. They want us fighting each other as opposed to the us and them. So, and
Oh,
we do everything in our power not to fight with people or whatever, for the most part, we go after the big guys, because we know that you and I and everybody, even if your audience disagrees with me on 98% of what I'm saying or whatever, you and I are still getting screwed by the big dogs, right? So I guess we're on the same team in one sense, right? You know what I mean? Like, so
that's one of the things that I kind of sometimes, I suppose, find disappointing, that there are so many people who are in a similar space and yet still arguing over the minor details. Um,
I catch myself guilty of that every once in a while. So I
mm.
can't sit on my high horse, but in general,
Oh
yeah.
no, no, I,
Yeah.
I I know, and it's well, that's what I'm saying. Same thing for me, that it's this. And knowing the power of words and language and these spells is actually how we get out of this mess, if you like. So, I know you're saying about bifurcation. I know there are, some who are absolutely stuck in the mainstream narrative. Um, but I think they're sort of a smaller percentage, because I think there's a group in the middle, if you like, who are curious but haven't quite opened up to all the things that we've looked into, and some of the things that we're talking about are stuff that I've only the last few years that I've come to
Hmm.
realize. So I'm open to keep going, keep learning, or unlearning what isn't true. So do you not find that there's like a, I won't say a middle group, but people who are not like committed to the narrative, but who are maybe open but don't know how to find the information, or they would be open if they knew something?
Yeah, in general, I think there's an awakening going on. I mean, like just in my own life, like I know, I mean, I grew up in, I mean, I was born in 1979, right? So I'm still kind of a younger dude, whatever. I'm not like, whatever, right? But I mean, I grew up like 80s and into the 90s and stuff like that. None of these conversations were being had. There's not the
Mm.
genetics, the DNA, the cosmology, false histories, well, pseudosciences, but none of these conversations are being had. Not, I could, if I even wanted to go find them, it would be like I'd have to go to like Alex Jones or something, and he wasn't even doing it, right? So now you look at what's going on, and there's an explosion. I mean, you would have to be kind of deluded not to see it in one sense, right? I don't know where that's going to go, that sort of thing, but I also know this too, like I don't have fear of any of these things. That's the one thing I think that coming to this truth actually brings you is that a sort of like a spiritual fortitude and confidence that it's like I don't have fears of viruses. I don't have fears of like, oh, I'm gonna get whatever. Like it's gone. There's nothing, you know? And that's so freeing, you know. And I think there's a lot of people that are coming to that, you know. So I'm just trying to, and I think you're doing the same, obviously, just trying to facilitate any of those people, you know, help facilitate those people in opening up, you know, like right now we're at sort of like a yin yang, like it's been all black, right? And there's this little shade of white, and all we're trying to do is like just make that baby grow, you know, kind of thing, you know? So, yeah, I think there's a lot of people waking up, you know, for sure. So, and I think that the elites or whatever you want to say, the elite that should not be, or whatever that you want to call them, there's a lot of running that they're doing right now. There's a lot of cleanup. There's a lot of things are not going the way that they think so. That's how I see it anyway, you know? So,
Yes, I agree. And I think that's in some ways where they're kind of ramping up the nonsense. Only the sillier, the more they do that, the sillier it gets. And more people are seeing it. Only sometimes, like even with the virus thing, that there's still the kind of they still have questions. But I mean, absolutely, like you, that there's no fear because I came across Stefan Lanker's work. I don't know, um, 18 years ago, something like whatever.
I
So
was
I,
gonna say
I
he's
was
been around a long time. Yeah.
yes. I mean, he was speaking out in the 80s. I didn't really start looking into this till the 2004, 5, 6 or something like that. Well, it was kind of on my path from 2002 onwards, and kind of the health
Mhm.
thing was a bit later. So uh, came across his work fairly early on, and the no virus thing, and so I've known that for a while. And as you say, it's totally empowering and takes away the fear, and that's what I think is so important because people don't think when they're in fear.
Oh, that's what all of it is too. In fact,
Mm.
I mean, this is what Steve and I we just did a show with Chance. I'm pretty sure we spoke about it there. I spoke about it in the last sermon. Is that if you actually just like, for instance, I know we're kind of going all over the place here, but if you just
It's
look at
okay.
atomism, right? Every part of atomism is fear and to diminish you as a spiritual being, right? First off, the first thing that they still have is nuclear weapons. They're going to get a nuke. Nukes don't exist. It's just ridiculous. Yes, they have big explosives and things like that, but nukes don't exist. There's no nuclear energy. There's no atomic anything. And every bit of that since it first rolled out is what? Fear. Kids crawling under their desks and showing pictures of explosions, and Iran's gonna enrich uranium or whatever BS that and it's all fear. You know, like literally
Mm.
all of it. And then not only that, as Steve was saying, it's a when you look at it, it's all a reduction into physicality, right? When you look at modern science and the reductionist sort of materialistic science, what are they doing? They're taking ether out. They're taking God out. They're taking an intelligent designer out of it, right? They're taking that you have your teleos, your purpose, right? Your teleos, your purpose, your the meaning for being here. All of that's gone in modern science. It's always diminishing. Always. You're a monkey. You're in massive, infinite space, and there's no purpose and reason, and it's the exact opposite, and all of that when as you say, it's like it's just an inversion. So when you flip it back, it's like boom, all of a sudden the power gets right back into your hands, because then you have power over your health. You don't have to go into this like convoluted chaotic mess of health advice to figure out what you need to do. You don't at all. It's so clear, it's so easy, and once again, that's all empowering. So, and they don't want you to do that because everything that they do is fear. Everything. Oh, there's going to be a comet that's going to crash. Fear. Heliocentric fear. Virus is going to kill grandma and everything. Submicroscopic fears. Atomic bombs. Fear. all of it,
Totally,
you know.
totally.
And what is God? The one thing that we should know about whatever your religious convictions are is to have no fear in this life. That's it. How many times did I mention that in the Bible? Well, this is the way to that in a very, very palpable, real sense, you know? And that's why we're so dedicated to this. We ask like why, what got you in the DNA thing? I don't want to be fearful anymore, you know? I want to know my world. I want to know my relationship with the creator. And I don't want to walk through this world, tiptoeing and being scared and everything. No, and I wasn't scared during COVID. When that hit,
No.
one thing I was like, no, I'm not doing the thing. You fire me. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I'm not scared of a virus. I'm not scared of the government. They were like, you don't wear a mask. We're going to fine you $5,000. And then my boss drugged me in. He's like, they're fining people $5,000. I said, fine me, drag me into, I don't care. That doesn't like, those are not, that doesn't, shiver my drawers at all. You know what I mean? Like I'm not scared of that stuff. And that's all they wanted people to be was scared. Scared of the authority, scared of the bug, scared of this. That's not how we're supposed to live at all.
Oh,
And
totally.
as you know, do you know what fear and anxiety and stress does? Makes you sick, clearly, in all sorts of different ways, as we know. So, yeah.
Yes, totally. And they certainly rolled that out during the early COVID years, and with the um, uh, well, and also when they rolled out the jabs, and then a lot of people were saying, calling it a vaccine. They said, "Oh no, no, it's not a vaccine; it's gene therapy." And that, of course,
Hmm.
took a lot of people down the wrong path as well. Oh well, because they can alter. Oh well, it's permanently altering your DNA. And right from the very beginning, I was like, no, no, can't possibly, because well, for all sorts of reasons, but it can't possibly because it you've got to prove DNA and genetics being the drivers of everything, which they're not. And I
Well,
think that this has also helped to divide the so-called air quotes here, health community as well, because some of them are
mhm.
still talking. Well, there are certain people talking about lab leaks as well, because that's reared its ugly head again. And then other people are saying, oh, well, these. I'm not saying the vaccines are okay. No, they're not. There's nothing good about them, and they don't do it. They're totally unnecessary. And it's a question of the explanation of what they're doing. There's no science behind them. The whole idea
Yeah.
that that gene therapy that kept
Well,
that kept it in the public psyche. Gene therapy, it's genes.
that was one of the they're always like it's just like the Joe Rogan thing too. What was the thing that he was taking the ivermectin or whatever, right?
Oh,
That. So instead it's like, well, don't take the vaccine. I'm not taking the vaccine, but I will take ivermectin. Ivermectin makes you sterile, as far as I understand. Ivermectin makes you sterile. That's at least what I. So just that alone. And then as you're saying, when they came, oh, that vaccine has CRISPR technology and gene therapy. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Genes aren't real. CRISPR technology isn't real. Do you know what else is not real? Genetically modified organisms. How many people today that are listening to this still believe in GMOs? In order for you to believe in GMOs, you have to believe in genetics. In order for you to believe in genetics, you have to essentially believe in DNA. All of it is completely, not only is it unprovable, we can disprove it. We can prove that these things are false. They're not real. So, how many people CRISPR gene technology and genetically modified organisms and it's all nonsense. And what is it? Through and through, 100% up, left, down, right, and center, fear. Fear,
mm,
you know?
mm.
So,
I have to say, strangely, in what really makes you well, that kind of knowing about genes and at the same time looking at genetically modified, well, GMOs, genetic engineering, and knowing it's not the way we're told. At the same time, we know they are interfering with food, and it's not
oh yeah.
how it's been grown naturally. So there's something wrong with it. It's just not. It's like everything. It's not the way they explain it, but they're doing things that aren't good. But I say the they, I mean, whatever, whoever's in charge of these scientific things, I mean, because they're not experiments, but what they're doing in the name of science. Um,
Yeah,
so,
let me just say
yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
yeah, just one quick thing. They're
Sure.
absolutely
Yeah.
messing with food. They're absolutely grafting and then you know, just leveling the thing with chemicals or something like that so it doesn't reproduce, clearly, but the fear and then also the scientific wizardry that they do it with is exactly what you're saying. Oh, we're it's genetically modified, we're going into the gene. No, you're not. No, you're not. And the other thing too is like when you accept that sort of stuff, what you're doing is giving them an unbelievable amount of power over the future, over your psyche, over your children's understand all of it. And so once again, you can pull the rug out from under them. You have the power to pull the rug out from under everything they're saying. You just have to take that fortitude and strength and say, no, I'm not engaging that. Like I've said before, if there's anything DNA or anything like that, I'm never doing that. Some cop wants to swab my no. And then I'll just explain, like I'm going to stand in that. That's power. That's empowering. So, and I think honestly, generally speaking, I would say that that's really what our world age is, generally speaking, this sort of timeline that we're living right now, is that I think that's part of what's going on, is that there's been so much suppression, so many lies, so many magic spells, so much inversion, so much perversion of this world. And then just like anything, you put it down and put it down and put it down, what's going to happen? They got to fight and come back up. You push somebody down so far, they're going to react. And I think that's in essence what's happening in general with humanity right now is we've been diminished and pumped with fear and lied to so much that humanity is like no more. And that's the spirit that to me is the spirit of God working through people right now. And I see that. I do very much. So
Yeah. That is really why, for me, when people say, oh, no virus, oh, it's not important. For me, it's important because it takes away the fear. While people think there might be something, it keeps people in fear. And so, exactly as you said, knowing that there are no germs that can harm me. Yeah, there are things that can harm me, but they're not these
mhm.
germs. So other people can't spread things to me, all this transmission nonsense. So that's, and again, that keeps us in fear of each other and keeps the antagonism towards other people because they
Yeah,
don't want us getting together, do they?
yeah. I mean, that's it. That's it.
Mm. One of the things I found quite interesting was um, on the genes, the A, T, C, and G, that in that order. I mean, like you say, is it a coincidence or not? But it's the letters of the first four signs of the zodiac. I mean, we'll get into the zodiac stuff a little bit more, but I was like, just amazing that again, you spotted that and think, is it is it a
Aries,
coincidence?
Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. Aries, adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. So what I guess would be ATGC is how it is in your
Mm.
zodiac. But that
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
so
sorry.
maybe that's a coincidence. I would say not, because what we're showing is that the people that are they, if you will, that
Mm,
are running the world, they know the occult sciences, and we were never taught
mm,
any of them. And in fact, why I get a lot of heat actually is because I just openly teach them, and people assume that
mm,
I'm teaching Epsteinian dark Kabbalah or something. I don't like,
mm,
no, I'm giving you the education system that they have to fight back. Like literally, like the truth of your being and the truth of all of these things, right? And so, but because people have been so inundated by the dark occult and anything occult is bad and stuff like that. No, 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 that's not the case at all. These people are just wicked smart with the actual science that goes on here. They replace it with all this junk science, genes and DNA and atoms and whatever, all this other stuff. And when you get back to the actual science that we teach, the holy sciences, what it does is it's a perfect filtering mechanism to actually allow the light into your life, right? And then dispel all of this darkness because now once you have the confidence of actually knowing the true methodologies of science, who you are, where you are, what your purpose is, what these people are doing, why they're doing it. Like it gets into all of these things and it answers every one of these questions. And not only that, it empowers you. But people have been so filled with the fear of the occult and anything esoteric or mystic, that they've literally it just it like it's like a perversion of their mind. It prevents them from thinking properly, and rationally and reasonably about things. So we try to come in and just hand people, in this sort of sense, hand people that sacred system, that sacred knowledge, so that they can begin to, number one, fight back and then teach their children this stuff. Because as you know, we spent our entire lives, I know this for a fact, you spent more time unlearning all the bullshit than you did learning, didn't you? I can guarantee that's what my life was. Most of my 20s into my 30s, and then even into my, going late 30s, was tearing apart all this stuff. That's nonsense. This is nonsense. But then it's also building the holy science, the edifice of the holy science, so that we can be like, okay, oh, this is all bullshit, great, but what's the real stuff? We can learn that. It's not like some mystical thing that you just can't grasp. It's too complicated for us peons. No, it's stupid simple. And so much so that I like to say, if I can understand this and teach this stuff, knowing who I've been in the past and my level of education and stuff like that, anybody can learn this stuff. Anybody, because a lot of people be like, "Oh, you're a pretty smart guy" and stuff like that. Not always, though. Like, I've had a whole history of being a complete idiot, but I've had that history of finding out, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and had the fortitude to say what's right. I want to know, God, you know. So I think that's kind of what's happening right now in our world too, is all of this sacred system of actually understanding who we are, what Earth is, what our purpose is actually come to light right now. And I'm going to do everything in my power to, once again, facilitate that. So,
Which is wonderful. And yeah, much appreciated, because we need as many people as possible to be putting stuff out without the fear. Because I think that's the first step to help people come out of the fear, and then they can start looking, because then they can think clearly. And that's why they keep people in fear, so they don't think. So that's, for me, is the first step, to hand them some seeds of information or whatever it is to help them come out of the fear. Then they can start seeing it more clearly. Um,
can I
and the
ask you
whole,
something quick?
yeah, I was just going to say, and then you're saying about a cult, everyone, oh, a cult, but a cult just means hidden. So, but yes, you can.
Do you find you have an easier time reaching people now? Or, by it's like, planting the seeds, or, throwing a question in when somebody, do you find it easier now, or do you find it like that people are starting to sort of shut down a little bit because of overloading of information? That's the only thing that I would say that I see a lot happening right now, is because it's like, we've been fed 2 billion podcasts and all this other stuff, and people are just overloaded with info. So they're actually shutting out even things that they should know, because they're just like, I'm done with it. And I think that's part of that agenda too. So I don't know what your experience has been, but
Yes, I'm seeing that, yeah, that there is an overload of information. And I'm also seeing that some people who have taken a number of steps, to open up to the information, have got themselves stuck at a certain point. So when I say, no viruses, and they're still talking ivermectin, oh, that's not, that's like, okay. Um, I mean, that happened literally a couple of weeks ago with a presentation I gave, and I, just literally said, what I was saying about no viruses. And then afterwards somebody said, oh, that they these people who were being helped by using ivermectin, people had long COVID, and it's like, did you not hear what? So
you're
I
still
don't know.
fighting the virus, like you're still fighting the
Well,
virus, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but so there's that kind of half step, using natural things, and they think ivermectin is natural. So there's a whole mix. So this is what I'm saying. It's not quite a straightforward bifurcation of kind of, that there are different layers. How we help people, but I mean, you're absolutely right. The overload of information, and people don't necessarily know how to hear that clear signal anymore, because it's just a lot of noise.
a lot of static, yeah.
So, and at the same time, I'm trusting that it's unfolding in the right way. So,
Hmm.
not to lose trust in the creator, that it's unfolding and carrying on, as you say, kind of helping people, sharing the information.
And
So one,
no
yes, you're
matter
gone.
what's, I'm sorry, no matter what's happening in this world, you still have to do your job. Like you still have to figure out who you are, what talents God gave you, what position he put you in, how you have to ask yourself in this sort of sense every day, what, what position I'm in, what talents or whatever did God give me, and how much light can I bring to the situation, as possible kind of thing. Like that's it. Like that's what we're doing. No matter what happens here, even if everything falls to shit in 2 years or whatever, I still have to do, I still have to bring the light. I still have to be upright. I still have to honor God and honor all of that. That never changes. No matter what's going on here, it never changes. And if we can get back to that sort of thing, then the outside world and all the whatever terrorism and agendas and narratives and stuff like that, it's all of a sudden you will see it start to die. You know what I mean? So that would be my take. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, because it is, it's an inside job, as they say.
Hmm.
Oh, I mean, there's so many parts to all of this. Yes, and when you were saying what you were talking about, science, air quotes, science, or scientism, whatever. The real science is alchemy, as you were saying. It is that transmutation of. It's not actual physical substances. It's transmutation of ourselves
Hmm.
into understanding who we are, and what the purpose is, and what our purpose is. And for me, we are all different. We all have a different purpose, function, whatever that is. How do you see what, the purpose of life in this realm? And it's a huge question.
Well, I mean, it's actually easy answer. It's to find God, like that's what
Okay.
we're here. Yeah, I mean, when you actually, and ultimately what I mean find God is how we teach it anyway. Like, we're a Christian church, and it says that Jesus, I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? And of course, Christians that are literalists, they take this for a ride and they think this means you have to idol worship some dude. No, 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 that's not what it means at all. It means that when you seek Jesus, when you seek Christ, what you're doing is seeking truth in all things because that's what he is. I am the way, the truth, and the life. The life is eternal life. The way we could get it, we could talk about that's the Milky Way. That's cosmological, which we could get into or whatever. But that truth means the principle of truth in all things. That means truth about getting to the core of knowing yourself and who you are. I know I have limitations. I know there's certain things I'm not good at, certain things I suck at, some things I'm really good at. All right, figure out what those are and then, and work your, that sort of thing kind of thing. So, but that goes to the truth in all things. So when you asked about like DNA, why, what, I want to know the truth. Because if I know the truth, then I know God. If I know the lie and I know that's a lie, then I know the Satanists. And then if I can unpack that lie and actually find out the truth, then I just come closer to God. And that's what it's all about. So when we talk about purpose here, I think it's, one of the great, we call Earth, the greatest adventure conceived by the greatest mind ever conceived in this sort of sense, right? Because it is. Like we have great highs and great lows here. You have unbelievable torture and pain and suffering, and then you have great joys, elation, love, romance, poetry, dance, you know. And in this sort of black and white ebb and flow of this sort of thing, we're entered into this world of really no direct answers are given to us. It's not like, it's all questions. So the purpose of the thing is literally here, answer the questions. You're surrounded by, and there are answers. There are answers. There is a purpose, and you can find it. Right. So that's what we're here to do. Unfortunately, all the sciences, TM science, pseudoscience that we're taught, once again diminishes the fact that you even have a purpose at all. I was never taught that I had a purpose on earth. I was just, oh, I guess I'm going to go get drunk now, and then I'm going to go play in this band, and then I'm going to go to college, and that sucked. I had no idea what my purpose was. Then I actually started to know myself, know who I was inside, started to know the world, started to understand the world, started to understand that there was God. And it's every time I did that, it was once again that alchemical filtering mechanism. Oh, that goes. Oh, that's some, you know, whatever, oh, whatever, junk and garbage, whatever that you're just, and then you get to this quintessence, and that's purpose and meaning and I became a pastor because of it. Like I mean, if you would have asked me 20 years ago and or said like you're going to be a pastor, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, are you nuts? You know? But I was so honest with all of it, the science, the religion, the philosophy, that the true me was allowed to just, and now that's, I inspire people weekly with it, and so those are all gifts, you know, and honestly, part of the gift of living and being able to go through that is to cut the devil's head off because it's fucking fun. It is. I love slaying DNA. I love slaying atomism. I love slaying bullshit cosmology. Love it, you know? Because then I get to watch as the demon's head gets cut off and it's writhing and bleeding all out. And then what are you left with? The love of God? That's actually what's going on, you know? That's been my experience, No BS. So,
So, like the hero's journey, I mean, you've talked about that as well, slaying the dragons, whatever, working our way through all these um, challenges of life. Like you say, we have ups and downs. We all have ups and downs. I mean, there are all sorts of questions, all sorts of ways we can go there, but you see it like I mean, you talked about the hero's challenge, the hero's journey.
mhm.
So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you're happy with that concept. So is that part of our, not purpose here, but it's an essential part of
your
finding
path, your
who we are,
challenge.
that we have to go through have to. I mean, it's how it unfolds, that we go through these challenges and that are personal and different for each of us.
Yeah. I mean, we always take this position that if like there's some like we'll read the Bible and like study the Bible and stuff like that, but I'm always of the position is like I don't really give a crap what that book says. I don't care at all. If there's something true in that book, that means I need to be able to take it out of this thing, look into the world and find that truth and that proof in the world, right? And that's the whole thing. So when we talk about the hero's journey is nothing more than the path that the sun takes every year. That's it. There's a path where it starts out and it goes up to its highest point in Cancer, and then it goes down and it falls, and then it goes all the way to its lowest point where there's really, really basically any light. And then what happens? It's reborn. It's a natural poetic cycle of the circuit of the heavens. Just the sun alone, we could talk about the other planets too, but just to focus on the sun, right? That's what it's doing naturally. It's going through a process of getting to the highest point, going through a death and being reborn. And that's why you see Jesus as the sun, I mean, it's all right there, right? So this whole point of like, we teach the Prisca Theologia, we teach the universal mystery religion. And what that says is that there is a natural inherent religious process within the creation itself. And that if you go to study yourself and your relationship with the cosmos and stuff like that, this story will be told to you. It's literally embedded in the thing. So the reason that you'll find, like you're mentioning Joseph Campbell was a comparative mythologist. He spent many, many years looking at all of these different religions and, tribes and civilizations. And there was constantly reoccurring themes. And it's so bloody apparent that you just have to be willingly ignorant to ignore them. It's like, why are so many cultures why is seven sacred in like thousands of cultures? Why not, 27 or whatever it is, or whatever, like that sort of thing. There's something there. And what it is actually the natural inherent process of you coming to know who you actually are. And this is what Christianity is all about. And most Christians have not a clue, as you know. I mean, I hate to say that, but they don't. That's what that story is all about. It's literally you coming to, in this essence, become a mini God, lowercase g, not uppercase g, And that's what apotheosis is. That's what theosis is. That's what all of that sort of stuff is. So, um, our own study is brought to the fact that it's like death and resurrection, right? Like that's clearly Jesus, Christian thing, but it's all over in cultures around the world. Where does it come from? Watch your son in one day. What does it do? It's born, it goes to its midlife, it dies, and then what happens? It's reborn again. Every day, God tells you exactly what you need to do here. And all you have to do is read it symbolically and recognizing that that light is within you as well. So, and that's pretty much been lost in most Christian religion today, as you know. So we're doing
Mm.
So we're stepping out as like literally like a lone soldier, if you will, and trying to teach this stuff. And it's, it's like I said, a lot of antagonism. A lot of people do not like it because what you do is you expose their own lack of understanding, you know? They've been telling narratives and stories, and they've built an identity of themselves. And when you come with so much truth, what it does is destroys identities, and people cling to those identities so much. And you know that through doctors and
Mm.
right, all of a sudden the doctor finds out that, oh, viruses are bullshit, but I've been sticking people with for 20 years. Think about the psychological mirror that you have to put, it, right? And that's how they kept a lot of this going. So anyway, I'm just kind of ranting here, so I'll stop.
No, 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 not at all. You're going exactly in the right direction, which is where I wanted to take it next. So, you've started into, which is astrotheology, you know, the misunderstanding of the Bible being a literal historical document instead of being a representation. Although I'm not denying there's good
Mhm.
stuff in it, although I it's not something I read, so I have to hands up. I don't read it. Like so many other things. And at the same time, so I listen to you explaining how everything's related to what's above us. And that's another reason why our cosmology is so important, to understand the cosmology, that it's not some random bit of rock, that there is not just a purpose, but there is an intention. There is, there's a the right word's not coming to me, but there's something um, in what's above us. And again, that's the as above, so below. Maybe you'll come up with the right word. It's escaping me for the
Well,
moment. But there's that what's above us is not just this, these random bits of rock or whatever it is. And there's a difference between the stars and the planets. And again, you're saying about seven, there being seven planets. Sorry, I don't want to throw too many things at you because I've
no, it's
got a
all right.
few things.
No.
But we will go there. But it is that point of understanding what's up there. And I've got a couple of questions as well,
the yeah
and how that relates. So yeah,
yeah the what people don't understand the Bible is actually giving you God, there's so many things we can talk about here. First and foremost, when you
exactly.
talk about the stuff up there, let's first start with that. Every bit of that has meaning.
Yes,
The constellations, the asterisms, the placement of the Milky Way, where the Milky Way goes, where it crosses the ecliptic, what planets are in the ecliptic. All of those things actually have a deep symbolism, and there's a natural symbolism. Once again, it's not just, oh, some Greeks said something about this sort of stuff, and that's why or the Norse said the rainbow is a bridge, so that's why. No, forget about all that. I don't care about any of that. You could just go and study the creation itself, and you can come to these conclusions about the actual meaning of what these things are. And I can give you a few examples. The pole star. The pole star, first and foremost, if you look in the Bible, like they'll just draw you pictures of it in like in the opening pages. They'll draw a flat plane. It will be a firmament, and then at the top, literally right above, will be God on his throne, looking over his entire kingdom. That's just what they will draw. So what they're doing is actually they're taking all of this mystical poetry and the biblical stories and stuff like that, and they're relating it to things in the here and now, not 2000 years ago and some shit happened and this guy was this and blah blah. I don't care about any of that. You can't even prove any of that. What those stories are actually doing is placing all of these tales in the here and now. Okay, this is not, and so, and then what you do is you actually realize that these biblical characters, the situations, the stories, the names, they're all every last one is referencing what's going on up there in the here and now, not 2000 years ago. What did they convince Christians what it is? This shit happened 2000 years ago. And you got to idol worship Jesus. No, he's in the here and now. What are you talking about? And the Bible says it exclusively. Above all, through all, and within you all. He's constantly in the present, all of that sort of stuff. So why why did they manipulate cosmology? So we don't understand meaning. It's that simple. You don't understand what the sun is. You don't understand the path of the moon. You don't understand why that's important. What does the moon have to do with you? Can anybody say anything other than periodicity or whatever, like menstrual cycles or something, right? No, that stuff's on your hands. The pattern of the moon is on your hands. You can count it, we could show it, So it's the education system that we actually should have got. We never got an education system that actually helped us understand our heavens. What is the quadrivium and trivium? Number one, it's 7 arts. It's 7 things to learn, right? Separated into 3 and 4 for a reason. But the quadrivium is this: number, geometry, cosmology, and music. Do you know why they taught those things? Because that's how you understand your world. You understand your cosmology for actually what it is. You understand that things are musical, which means there's rhythm, there's rate, there's frequency, that sort of stuff. You understand that the world can be understood through the basics of geometry and number. So why was everybody taught to hate number? Why were we never taught geometry? Why were we purposefully, since we were very, very young, mistaught about our cosmology? And then further, why have they spent all of these years taking these extracurricular activities out of the high schools and the junior high? When I went to school, do you know what I did? I was constantly in the music room, writing songs, singing with my friends. That's actually how I learned to do a lot of things I do. That shit's all gone from your curriculum now. Why? To diminish you, so you don't understand anything. We just teach them. That's it. So that you do, you know.
That's the creativity, isn't it? They're taking creativity out because
100%.
they're teaching air quotes productive units, that they want productive units for the economy and all that nonsense. Um, yeah, as you say, so many places we can go with this. Um, Question, it's just something that I'm still questioning is the firmament, as in, is it a, well, we don't know, I suppose. Is it an actual, do you think it's an actual structure as such, or is it a representation of something?
Well, okay, a few things. It is a structure, right? Because
Okay.
but it's metaphysical, okay? And that gets people to be like,
Right.
"Wait, what?" Like, well, the thing is like, it just even says in the Bible that no man can enter the kingdom of heaven with basically a flesh body, whatever, because flesh and blood don't enter the kingdom of heaven, that kind of thing. And what it's actually saying there is that everything upstairs is metaphysical, everything down here is physical, okay? Just like there's a barrier, just when we talk about atomism and things like that, right? And you zoom in and you zoom in and you zoom in, there's only so far you're going to go. There's only so far you're going to go, right? It's the same thing up there, right? There's, in this sort of sense, there's only so far you're going to go. The how the ether has been taught and how basically around the world it's been taught, and this is exactly what you experience. Everybody experiences this. Nobody can contest this. People will, though. Everything down here is material. You can touch not everything. Obviously, everything's made with spirit, but you get it. Like this is solid. This is solid. That sort of stuff. When you die, what happens? All the water goes out of your body. The material stays down here, and you've got your spirit and your soul, and that's metaphysical, and that goes up, right? So, there's this notion that when you down here is physical and you go up here, it's metaphysical. Well, at some point, that metaphysicality has a barrier, and what's beyond that barrier? God. That's it. There's no
Right.
other explanation. There's no other language. All language is going to stop. All paradoxes are solved. All of that sort of stuff. All the classic stuff you've ever been taught about God is exactly what's outside of this firmament. Then everything else is the container. The firmament is the container. Well, if you look up what ether actually means, it means edifice. It means essentially a building or a container in which to contain everything. And of course, it has to be that, because why? Everything is contained in here. The gases are not just going out into space and stuff like that. And that's why they had to create space. So there is no more container, right? And that also, by removing the container, also gets you to not understand, once again, the meaning of your stars, the constellations, the asterisms, any of that sort of stuff, right? So yeah, there's the firmament has always been known, and this is cross-culturally too, that the stars were on the celestial sphere, right? And that sphere is constantly turning around us. And the reason that we can understand it's a sphere is because geometry. There's only one, in this essence, only one geometric shape that it really could be if it's an expanse, as they say in Genesis in Hebrew. Firmament just means expanse. What's the most thing you can expand geometrically? A three-dimensional sphere. If you want the expanse, there's only one geometric form in 3 dimensions that you can actually choose, and that is the sphere. So rationally, reasonably, what you actually experience, what scripture says, and then what other cultures have said have absolutely shown that there is some sort of barrier there, but it is metaphysical, you know? So you get like you
Right,
understand what I'm saying?
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because that was the thing. Well, if it's physical, how can it be metaphysical? But yeah, okay, okay.
Mhm.
Um, because isn't that interesting that the kind of the sphere is relevant, but it's not the shape of the realm. You know
It's
that.
inversion. It's
Yes,
but this is
exactly.
yeah, this is the I don't mean to stop you, but this is
No,
what
no, go.
Steve has been hammering on, Dr. Steve, and I've been hammering on. Every last one of these things is taking the actual knowledge that everybody can come to understand and flipping it, inverting it. That's their tool. That's their game. And once you understand the game, go here, go here, go here, go here. Every one of these subjects you could do that with. So heliocentrism, what they do? No, it's a sphere, but you're not on the land on the sphere. You're on the land in the center, the flat plane, and then there's a sphere around you. So what did they do? They just flipped it. That's literally all they're doing. Once again, when you see their stupid tricks, you could just be like, "Ah, there it is again. Oh, there it is again." It's not even that hard to see, right? So basically that's what we're doing with atomism, DNA, genetics, virology, all of it. Oh, what are they doing? They're inverting it. Okay, we'll just flip it back on its head. And then you've got all the things you need to know, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I mean, as you say, everything's inverted. So with these Greek myths and stories and everything about the heroes and that people assume are real characters in a lot of these stories that we've grown up with. And I remember reading Greek myths when I was little. I found them fascinating. At the same time, they're not real people, but it's not that they're just myths to teach us sort of not just morality tales or that kind of thing. They're actually representations of what's going on up there in the sky. Of
yeah, this is an excellent point because when people say myth, they usually tend to think it's not real, right?
mm,
A myth. Oh, it's myth. It's just a myth. It's just right.
mm,
That's the thing. What myths actually are, and this is what the Bible is. We call the Bible. It isn't to say that there aren't some history in the Bible, like oh, there was a flood or that sort of thing. But generally, what they are myths. And so people hear that and say, "Oh, the Bible's not true." No, what a myth actually is a transcendental truth. It's a truth that it always exists. It doesn't matter when you're here. You could have shown up 2,000, 8,000 years ago, and you could show up 8,000 years later on Earth here, and these transcendental truths will always be the same. And so, what myths are doing is actually capturing those things. And what will you see in a lot of myths? The struggle between good and evil, fighting. A lot of times, they'll couch it in symbolism and stuff like that, but it's almost always psychological. You're always fighting your own personal demons and stuff like that. That's what it comes from. And then when you realize that these myths are actually attached to the dome, and this dome ain't going anywhere. It's literally, in this sort of sense, eternal. And this is why we actually see cultures like we don't know how old these are, but it's like, oh, they're patterning, the stars of Orion on the ground in an archaeoastronomical way, and we don't know how old this is, and yet Orion's still up there, isn't it? So whatever truth they came to is still available for us today, and that is myth. That's the transcendental truth. So that's what we do and show with Jesus and his disciples. What is Jesus? He is the light within us, right? He is that light up there and the light within us. That's never going anywhere because it comes straight from God. This also gets us into geometry, number. Can you destroy the number 7? Can you destroy the number 6? How about any of the numbers? No. So it's incorruptible, it's universal, it's transcendental, it's metaphysical. Myths are trying to teach us about all those things because guess what they do? They give you purpose. They help you understand who you are, what the heavens are, what you're doing here. Once again, why is mythology essentially taken out of school? There was one mythology class, if I remember correctly, one mythology class in the entirety of my high school, and it's gone now, as far as I know. So these kids don't learn even anything about that anymore. You learned about Greek. I didn't. So think about that, you know. So
Well,
myth.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't in school. I mean, that was a book I had, because
Oh,
I've always enjoyed reading. So
mhm.
no, it was a book I came across. I had access to a few books, so it's one of the books. It was actually, is it? I mean, it's American. Nathaniel Hawthorne, the Tanglewood Tales. A wonder. It
Oh,
was
okay.
called A Wonder Book and
Yeah.
Tanglewood. A Wonder Book. Anyway, yeah, it's. So they weren't the kind of, and later on I read, the sort of the Greek myths, but they were written for children. And, as I say, I was young. Um,
The funny thing about all this too is that everything that we're talking about here, as far as like, oh, what myths mean and cosmology and symbolism and the universality of geometry and blah 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 blah. Do you know where I learned all of this stuff? In the occult tradition. Like literally the place that they say you can't go, it's just all devil worship. And I was like, I was trying to educate myself. Like I went to college for a year and a half and that wasn't doing anything. And then I started voracious, I was a voracious reader for a while at that point still, but I was just reading on my own and all this other stuff. And I was constantly hungry. I'm like, I no, this, you're giving me this, it's not making any sense, blah, 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 blah. And then I got to this occult tradition, the place that they always tell you you're not supposed to go. And next thing you know, oh, universality of geometry, comparative mythology, what myths is, symbolism, archaeoastronomy, human anatomy, bioastrology, what is it, horology, all these were all the subjects that I studied. Not one university, not one college would offer any of that shit. And then, like I said, what do they tell you? The occult bad, mysticism bad, stay away or not, like, same sort of thing. I mean, the same sort of people that are telling you to get a vaccine, right? You know.
well, yes, because as you say, they don't want us to know that. And again, there's so many parts to it, with the zodiac and relating to different parts of the body as well. I mean, that's something I've come across more recently. And of course, it makes sense. And knowing how the zodiac works, that there are 12 signs, and I mean there are certain numbers, as you said, kind of, seven, and you've said seven planets, and you are pretty strong on your uh, what you say about the three outer planets not being
Yeah.
visible.
Sorry, I had to close that.
Sure.
Yeah, well, this gets back to it's just simple science. That's it. Like that's all I really care about. Like what is provable and what's not, right? So when we look at the seven classic planets in the astrology, and this is we're like, as far as I know, like one of the only like organizations or churches that's even teaching this, because people are still on Pluto and Neptune and all this other stuff. It's like there's nothing provable about Neptune, Pluto, or Uranus. Nothing. There's nothing provable about Chiron. Nothing, right? Yes, they can show you a picture. Like you can get an amateur astrologer, astronomer, whatever, that can actually take a picture of what they say is Neptune or what they say is Uranus. Yes, they can't take a picture of Pluto because that's too far out there or whatever, right? Hubble can, and their special space telescopes can, but you can't. But you can't independently go out without actually referencing NASA or some to tell you where Neptune or Uranus is. You cannot go out today with your telescope and then just say, I'm going to find out where Uranus is. You can't do it. As far as I know, you can't do it. So there's no provability of that whatsoever. What can you prove? Can you see Venus this morning? How about this evening? Yes, it's no problem. Can you see Saturn? I mean, depending on where it is, that sort of stuff. If Saturn is in the sky, can you go outside and look at it? Yes. Can you do that with Neptune? No. Can you do it with Uranus? No. Can you do it with Pluto? No. Can you do it with Chiron? No. So if you can't see them, you can't prove them. Are they real? Do you know that Uranus and Neptune specifically, I think it's Uranus, I want to say, or maybe it was Neptune. It was calculated by math, by heliocentric math. That's how they discovered it. That's how they discovered it. Heliocentric math, not visible, blah, 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 blah. Say, okay, so in other words, a bunch of magic, right? All of the ancient traditions, bar none. I've never seen anyone that doesn't will say seven classic planets. Why? Because they're provable, they're demonstrable. And this also gets to the point where in like the Kabayan, it says um the mysteries of the key to the mysteries is the number seven. He who holds this key, all the doors will magically fly open. I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like that. All of this stuff was based on seven. The days of the week, the creation of the universe in Genesis is six around one, right? It's the ether. Ether physics is literally six around one. It's seven. It's the seven planets, 7 days of the week, seven colors of the rainbow, right? So it's this constant. And then what does heliocentrism do? It's 10, but Pluto's kind of not, or something. Why? To screw with something that's simple, easy, provable, demonstrable, beautiful, symmetrical. That's the other thing that you'll find in astrology. If you use seven planets, it's a perfect symmetry. It goes Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mercury, Venus, Venus, Jupiter, Jupiter, Saturn, Saturn. I think that's the way. So it's boom, 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 symmetrical, beautiful. All the houses are accounted for. Then all of a sudden you throw Neptune and Pluto in, and it becomes a big ass mess. So
That's what
yeah,
I was going to ask you, because you were saying the seven and that fits into the 12 zodiacs
yes.
signs. So can you clarify that point? I know you just kind of said that. Can you just
Yeah. So Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus are out, right? So all
okay,
you're
okay.
left with is Sun, Moon, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And that's your seven, right? If you look at the classic way, it's always been done, right? Cancer and Leo. Leo is the sun, Cancer is the moon, right? So now you have 10 extra houses, right? For the rest of those five planets. If you see how they're actually patterned, it'll be Mercury. So Sun, Moon, one, Mercury, Mercury. I think it's Venus, Venus, Mars, Mars, Jupiter, Jupiter, Saturn, Saturn. So two
Right,
Saturn. Yep. So that's
yes,
how
no,
it's.
I
Oh,
hadn't, yeah, I
yeah.
hadn't realized the kind of, yeah, now I understand what you were saying. So sun and moon have one and then the others have two. So that
Yes.
that fits. Okay. It's
Yeah.
just I couldn't see how 7 and 12. That was all.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is too is like visually when you actually just map it out, it's like it's well, number one, it's based on pi. It's based on the it's that's literally what it is. It's like halved the zodiac, and you always have its pair or whatever, like Jupiter, Jupiter, Saturn, Saturn, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's how it's always been done, and it's beautiful. It's symmetrical. Everything is accounted for. You're not putting anything else in there that you can't prove at all, like naked eye observation, and it's all right there. Oh, thank you, baby. So we're trying to bring people back to that because what it does is actually it's like setting a line of demarcation between people who are doing actual science, provable, demonstrable. You can see it. Everybody can agree to this, etc. And then not. And you'll see most people still fuddling with Pluto and all this other stuff. And we're taking a hard stance on it because we're like, that's a perversion. That is absolutely a decimation of this beautiful system that is whatever you believe, like culture after culture after culture said that there's something going on with this high science. And we just show what that something is in one sense, you know? So,
Yeah, I was thinking, talking of trying to ridicule things,
yeah, yeah.
have tried to ridicule astrology for a long time to stop us from looking up at the stars, to make us think, oh, it's just your horoscope. So, what's going to happen to you today? Today you'll meet your two lots handsome stranger and all that nonsense. Um, and which is nonsense, of course.
Hmm.
But it's to ridicule and make us not even take any notice of what's going up there, which is, as you say, it's eternal. Um,
Well,
and
in if I may say,
yes,
Christianity is probably the biggest issue, meaning the Christian churches, because the Bible front to back is astrotheological, and you can get to a point where you can get surgical with it, like super surgical as to like what they're exactly saying, and yet pretty much every Christian tradition has been told what astrology of the devil. Astrology is bad. Then they even go so far to say that that the Bible actually condemns astrology. No, it doesn't. Maybe in some shitty like new translation, but if you look at Old Testament, there's nothing where it says they'll say divination. Yes, divination is incorrect. I've never met an astrologer that actually reads a chart and is like, "This is what's going to happen to you in 2 years." Every legit astrologer that I've ever met has poo-pooed that. That's not astrology, right? That has nothing to do with it. It is a symbolic system. It's horological. It tells you literally the changing of the seasons. It gives you the symbolic structure for your own spiritual life, all of that sort of stuff. That's what astrology is, a symbolic system to help you understand purpose, like legitimately, right? And then what did they sell it as? oh, it's all this bullshit. It's not real science. It's divination. It's this, right? And it is for there. Let's just say there's a lot of terrible astrologers out there. So in one essence, they're right, but that's not what astrology is about at all, you know? So, one of the biggest things that they've done is with the churches, because they have to attack astrology in the churches, because if people start realizing that their Bible is astrological front and back, it's like a whole, this is why, sorry, I don't mean to be ranting here again, but this is
No, no.
why I can't get in front of other Christians and debate them. They just will not do it. I'm actually in the middle of it right now. They will not do it because they know that what we're bringing up is irrefutable. They don't have arguments to this sort of stuff when it comes to some of this really, really basic stuff. And they're totally scared of the fact that it's like, hey, once again, it's like the doctor. Shit, I've been wrong. I was wrong. I put all my eggs in this basket, and now I have to look at that basket and be like, oh, those are all rotten eggs. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Hence the absolute agenda to, in this sort of sense, put down astrology, make it some stupid pseudoscience or whatever it is. It's like, no, it's the high science. Yeah, it is. So,
It is. And because actually, it was something that you said. You said astrology connects man to his cosmology.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when most people go outside, and this includes most astrologers, and I'm not trying to offend anybody here or whatever, it's like that's one of the things I do is it just, it's like a lot of times we'll confront people with their beliefs. It's triggering or whatever, right? And it's just this just is what we do. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be an ass, but um astrology, like the one thing about it is that like it absolutely connects you to that stuff up there. Most astrologers when they go out, most people when they go outside, they can't pick out anything in their stars. They can't tell you where the Milky Way is. They couldn't tell you where Cassiopeia is. They couldn't pick out the pole star. They can't, none of it, right? And that's fine. I'm not ripping on people because none of us were educated. That's why I opened a church and academy to educate people. But as you're saying, the first thing is that it does, and that this is really sort of this, you can't language it really kind of thing, is this deep connection that you have with literally everything. And I mean that in a very, very serious sense, like literally everything, all those stars, all those patterns, like there's meaning to them. And we teach that. So it's beautiful. It is. I mean, I can go out now and we're going to do that at our grounds here, hopefully even this year, when we have a gathering, is we're going to do star study, and we're just going to go out and I'm going to take my little laser pen and I'm going to point out biblical stories in the stars. Why? Because that's what it's for. That's what it's meant for, you know? And hence why our little church is such a threat to, it's not actually a threat, but it is a threat to some people, lots of people, because they have to take what they thought their entire life and say that's wrong. No, the Bible's astrological. It's astrotheological, and it's provable. So,
Yes, I mean one of the points you make, with the tetramorph, the four gospels, and what they actually represent. If you want to share that a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I've been sending this challenge out to literally Christians now, because the one thing that has been happening is they've been trashing, us and our church and Gnosticism in general. And so then I've just been like, okay, that's fine. You guys can say whatever you want, but like, what does this mean? And then I throw them out the four living creatures known as the tetramorph. And the tetramorph is something that's in Old Testament and New. So you can't be like, well, it's some old Jewish thing or no, 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 it's in both. It's in both. So, and what the tetramorph is it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, who are the authors of the Gospels, the first four books of the New Testament, and they are couched or they're symbolized in astrological terms, and it's unquestionable. It's the fixed signs. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and Matthew is Aquarius. He's shown as a man. Luke is Taurus. Mark is Leo, and then John is Scorpio, right? Well, Scorpio, if you look on your celestial, right, it should be a scorpion, but he's not shown as a scorpion. He's shown as an eagle. Well, then people are like, well, there's no connection there. Well, that actually is actually getting you to understand even more about your celestial canopy, because what's standing on Scorpio? Ophiuchus, who's holding what? An eagle in one hand and a snake. Essentially, there's an eagle to the right of him and he's holding a snake. And then you go into astrology, And for years and years, I'd heard this. One of the first, not one of the first things, but when early on, I remember seeing this, that Scorpio was also given the distinctions of a snake and an eagle. And I was like, why? Like, before any connection to the Bible whatsoever, none of that. Just asking, why is that? And then you realize, well, it's biblical. The Bible's literally trying to teach you this sort of stuff. It's literally giving you symbols so that you can understand your heavens more and literally what those symbols mean, you know. So this is the tetramorph. It shows that it is the symbolism of the zodiac, right? It's even once again symbolizing these living men or whatever as these creatures, and no Christian knows it. I don't know of a denomination, Orthodox, Baptist, Presbyterian, whatever, Mormon, forget, none of them know. And yet, as Jennifer and I showed, this specific symbolism of the tetramorph, which shows that the Bible is astrological, was in excuse me, every cathedral dome that we went to in Europe. Every last one. We visited, I don't even know how many, but we went to Italy, we went to France, we went to Germany. Obviously, that's where my wife is from. We went to Austria, we went to Italy. Every church that we went into, I think we visited maybe 15, 20 of them or something like that. The Tetramorph was there. And every Christian that goes into those churches has no idea. Think about that. It's nuts, you know? And so
Mm.
it's like, these are these other things. It's like, man, when you get to that truth, this is the thing. Now you can actually start to read your Bible. You know, the thing that nobody seems to be able to do. Not no priest, no bishop that makes sense of these. None of these guys can make sense of this stuff. And every honest person has to say that. No, you're not making sense of it so much that I can explain it. No, you're not doing any of that. Why can they not do it? Well, they've severed the connection to the astrology in the Bible. So now they're just reading a book and they don't have any of the keys to understand what literally any of it means, you know? And not only that, what do? They reject it, right? So interesting, huh?
Mm. How does the tetramorph apply in the Old Testament? Because I know you've talked about it in the New, with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Um, I think it's in Isaiah. Hold
Oh,
on, let me
okay.
just see. Let me just look here. Old Testament. I think it's in Isaiah.
Yeah, no, I was just curious. I hadn't
No,
heard
I am.
you.
Now that you asked that,
No, it's okay.
Ezekiel, yeah, the prophet Ezekiel sees a powerful vision of God on a storm cloud. Four living creatures appear, blending human and animal traits. Each single creature possesses four distinct faces: the face of a man, Aquarius, a lion, Leo, an ox, Taurus, and an eagle, which is, of course, Scorpio. And there you have the fixed signs. So not only
Right.
that, and then it says evolution into Christian symbolism. Of course, you have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then you actually, I think you find it in mentioned in Revelation as well. So once again, there's like all of this symbolism. It's in the Old Testament and New. It's literally in the architecture of these cathedrals. And now I challenge anybody that's listening to this, go and ask your bishop, your pastor, your priest, like make it a thing and ask any of these people if they can explain any of it. They won't be able to. I tried for years, like in an almost like a desperate attempt to like say like, hey, can any of you, explain this stuff to us? Nobody can. Why? They reject astrology, right?
Well,
So,
it's like you say, like doctors, that's their training, and so that's what they teach because that's what they've been taught to teach.
yep,
Like
yep,
teachers, that's what they're taught to teach. So they teach whatever it is.
yep.
Ah,
And if they go outside of that, right, their little whatever, their little funnel or whatever you want to say, I mean, that could be your job. That could like your the how like your livelihood, like your if you've gained some respect from your peers, that's gone. Most people are not strong enough to be able to handle those sorts of things. You know what I mean? Like the rejection and the feeling of, once again, just this notion of like looking at yourself and be like, oh, I was wrong. I was wrong all these years. The spiritual being decides to say, is wrong? Is it wrong? Is it wrong? Then it's fucking wrong. Let's find out what's right. That's the difference between somebody that has, the true spark of God in this sort of sense, or is following that true spark of God, and somebody that's not. So,
all the more reason. I was going to say homeschooling, but all the more reason for um, raising children in a very, very different way, and not within that school system, because I think it's getting worse, and it's moving them further and further away from understanding who they are and what life is about. I
Yeah.
think it's getting harder, which is another, it's like everything else is it's being turned up, like with everything else, the heat's being turned up to say, no,
Yeah.
this has got to stop. And I think that's why kind of, looking at children and or looking at what we can do, implementing something different to help change things, or to sort of shift things away, or like you say, kind of everything's inverted, well, let's re-invert it. And how do we do that? Well, we have to realize where we're wrong and share what we are learning as true, what is
Yeah.
provable, and sharing that, and so that they don't have to go through the whole unlearning to share with children, so that they
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing, and once again, this is what Steve and I have really been harping on. It's one thing to like, oh, that's a lie, and tear it apart, and viruses aren't real, or whatever it is. It's a whole nother thing to tear that down and then show what's actually going on, And so, and I think that's what we're trying to do, is like here, like, and this is what we did. That's what we're doing with the language of earth, air, water, and fire. This is the conversation we just had in ether. Everyone goes to explain their world with all of this technical jargon, and a lot of times it's just to make people sound smart, right? Like that's their thing. And you can break it all down: earth, air, water, fire, and ether. There's your elements. That's how the world works. It's astrological, it's time honored. It requires you to not believe in any sort of nonsense or somebody's claims at all. And you can explain your world. So this once again, this filtering process of just getting rid of this junk, all of these lies, and that's a beautiful process. It is, the notion of the Trinity is that, well, at least that what we teach is that the constantly reoccurring theme in this creation is actually beauty. That when you get to the quintessence, when you get to the down to it, it's beauty, right? That God did not make the world. The world is yeah, it has ups and downs and stuff like that, but ultimately God did not make, oh, I'm just going to make this shithole. No, he made a beautiful world. Yes, it has pain and suffering and stuff like that. But if you have that, once again, that spiritual fortitude, and you can cut through that sort of stuff, what you will find is that essence of beauty is what actually carries you along in this life, and the more and more you focus on that, the more and more light you'll bring to your situation, to your life. So, and I found that with doing what I do, like my strength, my confidence, my spirit, my creative abilities have been like 20 times to 33 times stronger,
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely
Right?
33.
Definitely 33. I mean, like there was times where I'm like, oh, I want to write a song and like I don't have the inspiration. After this conversation, if I wanted, I could go write me a song. It's just like it's there. The juice, the creative well, whatever. It's just not going anywhere. And I can only attribute that specifically to my constant alchemy, filtering, constantly getting to that quintessence, constantly getting to that point of beauty, and then allowing that to bloom in my life, you know. And yeah, and that's inspired people, People see that. They actually see the fruits of what we do. So
uh it's kind of a challenging thing, but it's something that I've come across, and I'm sure you've come across many times. People must ask you this, but you kind of touched on it when you're saying, the beauty in the world, but there's pain and suffering. You go, well, it's that. Well, what about all the children who are suffering, for example? There's a lot of horrible stuff going on out there in the world. How is that you know, a good, kind, loving God type thing? And
oh
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that's.
this gets into actually understanding your world, right?
Mm.
When you say, oh, well, the kids, they grow and, they're 1 year old and then gets cancer or whatever they say, right? And then the kid dies or a baby was aborted. How is that sort of thing? Well, the first thing that we teach is number one, that like the notion that there isn't reincarnation to us is absolutely ridiculous, meaning that it's not just this one life. You've probably had 108 lives or 1,000 lives or something like that. And what Earth is basically this once again, it's school. It's a obstacle course. It's a, there's all these things you can say, but basically what it is like, hey, you get to go down and what are you doing, man? Well, you got to find truth. You got to find, why was this thing built? Is there a God? What's my purpose in life, right? That's many lives. I don't think you do that in one life. I don't think you do it in one life at all, right? And then the other thing too is it brings you a bit of a huge amount, I will say this, of humility, because you're like, oh man, maybe I've been successful in this life, right? Maybe I found God and I've done and I really feel like I have. Like I found who I am. I know who I am. I know what I'm doing here. But that came at the helm of how many lives was I a fuck up? How many lives was I the jackass or the murderous whatever or the whatever it is, drug addict or whatever the thing is, right? Then so that actually gives you an understanding of like why God would kill children or like let children die, or why would God allow evil in general? Anybody that has to confront evil knows that, guess what evil does? Tempers your sword. I would have never started this church if it wasn't for COVID-19. I already had a ministry and I was doing that, but I was like, after that, my wife and I knew that whatever it is I was doing needs to be done full time. I have to give it all to it. And all of that came from what? Evil. Evil.
Mm.
So part of the confronting these wrongs, confronting the lies, confronting the evil is actually tempering your sword and learning to, and this, once again, reincarnation is something that is poo-pooed in the Bible. It's absolutely in the Bible, and you can't even understand the Bible without it, right? I'll give you the perfect example, and it stumps every Christian every single time, every time. St. John, who is the guy that baptized Jesus and, that sort of stuff, John the Baptist, he came in the spirit of Elias. So in the Old Testament, they said, oh, there's going to be this guy that's going to foretell the coming of the Messiah, and his name is going to be Elias. Then in the New Testament, this guy shows up, and they literally says he comes in the spirit of Elias, but his name is John. What is that? It's reincarnation. He was Elias in his old life. He was a total fuck up. Then he comes into this life, and guess what he does? He fixes what he got wrong in the last life. He fixes what he got wrong in the last life. So, and the other thing about this too is that if they're reincarnation and we're supposed to like build off the lives, but we don't remember our past lives, right? Right. Like some people do, some people claim they do that sort of stuff, right?
Children, yeah, I've
Yeah,
read some
yeah, yeah,
stories. Children,
yeah,
young,
yeah,
because they can still see, they've still got a sense of seeing beyond the veil, if you like. So yes,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, 100%. But there's also this part of it that it's like, hey, in order to experience the mystery called life, what does it have to be every time? Fresh,
Oh,
new,
authentic, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
authentic. You have to come into the world being like, once again, all the questions are given to you. And part of that is to question, wait, no, I'm not just this bodily thing. This goes away. I'm not Kevin, Ryan, Martin McNally, or Marty Leeds, or whatever. That's not actually what I am. What I am is the spirit. The spirit has been on a journey. And it's been, so part of the coming to actually know yourself is be like, guess what, man? You're an eternal, in this sort of sense, it's an eternal light. This ain't your first time. That immediately brings so much humility, so much empathy, so much understanding to people that are in shitty positions. It immediately says, hey, you can't be, especially people that have suffered trauma. Like a lot of times people like, they suffer trauma and they do bad things like they murder or whatever. And of course you have to take care of that sort of stuff. But immediately there's this empathy because you're like, oh man, maybe next life, maybe, and whatever. And I could have been that, probably was that in another life, right? So immediately it brings this, yeah, just
Compassion.
sense compassion, sense of connectivity to not only the people around you, but the people in the past, right? If I am a spirit and has been on many different journeys down here, right? Well, then that means at one point maybe I was like a Mayan or something, right? Okay, so maybe I should go, or maybe I was an Anishinaabe elder, right? Okay, well maybe I should go in and actually start learning some of that stuff, and maybe we'll find those transcendental truths in there. You know what you will? You will absolutely find them. Absolutely. So Yeah, this is that once again, all the things we bring to the table. It's like we can discuss, we can directly like confronting evil. What is it? Where does it come from? Why would God be such a prick and kill children or whatever it is, right? All of these things really actually have answers, and it brings you to a place of heart-centeredness, truth, compassion, love. And isn't that where we should be brought to, right? I think you would say yes, right? So
Yeah, that also the whole reincarnation thing brings in the question of time, which is we experience it in this realm. It isn't uh, a kind of fixed in terms of the kind of beyond this realm, if you like. In eternity doesn't have time, if you like,
well,
or
this is the
or
foundation.
oh,
Oh,
go
I'm
on.
sorry. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's just that because you were talking about I know you've talked about the Trinity of past, present, and future, and there's
Mhm.
in the true sense, there is only now.
Yep.
That's all we ever experience, and there's still the sense of past and future as well, and yet. So this is where the kind of reincarnation gets a little bit, well, if there is no time, then how does reincarnation work? But there is, because it's other experiences appearing to be in other time frames. Or how do you see it? How do you explain that?
Well, temporal, temporary, and eternal. That's,
Yes.
I mean, because you always have your balance of opposites that's going on, right? When you
Yeah.
look at the ether, physical, metaphysical, but it's not like that's the metaphysical and this is the physical and they're just completely separate. No, they're one. And we experience it at one, just like right now. I can look up and I can see the dome and all the metaphysical things, and that cloud isn't, well, that cloud's a chemtrail. But if that was a real cloud, it's not physical. I can't go and grab that rainbow. I can't go. No one's ever touched the sun or landed on the moon, no matter what they say. So it's always these opposites. So you have eternality, which is actually God beyond time, and then you have, in this sort of sense, him dipping into time, right? And then the notion of like actually experiencing or understanding that fact that there's something that's beyond time is actually found in time, as he just said, because we actually experience this the oneness all the time. It's always in the now. It's never the future and it's never the past. It's always the now. But here, do we experience a future and past? Yes, because of what? Our temporal or our temporary natures, right? And in fact, even when you look at the word temp, right? Temporal, temperature, tempo, which means a rate, a rhythm, that sort of stuff, which requires a past, present, and future, right? That sort of stuff. What's the word? Temporary, right? These are all
Mm.
things that are temp, right? And then of course you have the eternal. Um, so yeah, when you talk about metaphysical beings, basically there's this notion too that like if you do not do the things that you need to do here, you're in the heavens, you're not out of the firmament with God eternal beyond time. You're still tied to the firmament that's still turning, making time, and then they specifically give you the cosmological constants to tell you where your soul goes. Where does it go? Hell or Hades. Now, most people think that that's eternal suffering. No, it's not. It doesn't say that in the Bible at all. It says that there's a place where there's suffering that happens eternally, but that doesn't mean that you go there eternally. It does not say that. Why it's saying that's a place of eternal suffering is because it's on the dome, and the dome's not going anywhere. Orion's going to be Orion. Arcturus is going to be Arcturus. So what it is basically this story about what happens. Well, and sometimes, hell, generally speaking, is like fire, right? Well, what is it? It's burnt. You lived a life, you screwed up, you didn't do right things, whatever it is. Then you go through in the afterlife and that burns all away. You get to see all the things that you need to do in the next life. You cleanse and you come here fresh, kind of thing. So even in the metaphysical, the souls in this sort of sense are still on the dome. It's only when you actually transcend this whole thing that you get out up through the pole star and with God Almighty. And at that point, you lose the ability to say anything, like literally anything, because God is always in this essence beyond language. He's always in this essence beyond the things that we can absolutely, describe. And I say it like this way. The best way to explain that to somebody is just tell me what the last digit of pi is. Can you do it? No, you can't. So that's like it's akin to explaining God. You're going to fail every time, right? You can get close, you can approximate. It's like this, but that kind of thing. So hopefully that makes sense. What I just explained too actually gets into all of this comparative mythological stuff about looking at the cosmos and like, what's the function of the Milky Way? If you asked anybody what the function of the Milky Way is, well, part of it is to literally souls going down and going back up. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly how it shows in your planisphere, your cosmology. That's exactly how cultures across the world have explained it. It's exactly how you experience it. What does the Milky Way do? Milky Way arches up to the top, and then what does it do? It touches the ground from your experience. It arches from the top and then goes to the ground. What does a rainbow do? Basically the same thing, right? It goes from the metaphysical and then arches down to the physical. But you're not physical. You're physical right now, but your eternal truth is what? Metaphysicality. So now you have like reincarnation, what we're doing here, how it actually works, what the function of the Milky Way is, where it's going, all of this sort of stuff. Once again, where do you learn all this? Well, the mystery
From
school
you.
teachings. Yeah, I mean, the occult tradition,
Mm.
which everybody, for the most part, scurries from. And I'm like, nah, you don't need to do that. No, you can. So,
So in terms of hell, it's it's the fire part. It's the burning, the alchemical fire, if you like. Yes.
yes,
Oh
yep,
wow. Okay,
yeah. And
that
when you
makes
actually,
sense.
and then you actually look at where hell is and on your cosmology, and they call it a lake of fire, right? That's what this called in the Bible. Well, a lake of fire, that doesn't make any sense. Fire on a lake? What are you talking about? So molten sea, right? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so obviously you're talking about something metaphysical. Right. What is the ether? It's a molten fire. That's literally how it's described. A molten sea. It's literally a sea in this sort of sense, like a sea, a medium of consciousness, and it is the spiritual fire. That's how it's always been like explained, right? So then, what essentially what's going on? Well, your spirit is being filtered in this sort of essence through the ether. And the ether is what? Just truth beyond truth and everything, right? So now your lies and the false idols that you worshiped and the wrong things that you did gets filtered all through that, and you get to go again. And I've always been to the opinion that it's like you should come to a position in life where it's like you don't reject life and you just recognize what it is, what it's for, the hardships, the beauty, all of it sort of stuff. Accept it for what it is, appreciate it for what it is, actually recognize it's a gift, but also I don't want to stay. I don't want to stay. You should get to that position too. Like I don't want to necessarily come back down here. I'm ready to graduate. My soul has been down here enough. I've seen enough of the pedophiles and the wars and all this other stuff. I'm ready to graduate. That's not a rejection of Earth. That's not a rejection of your experience. That's not a rejection of God. That's not calling this place a prison or anything like that. That's just saying, hey, man, I did my 4 years of college. I'm ready to go start my family now. You know? So,
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. So many air quotes here, spiritual people think that we need to ascend beyond this, and that's rejecting this experience because
mhm.
this experience as a physical being, if you like, in this what in this realm, it's relevant and it is important. It's an important part of the whole of creation, if you like. I feel that's how I see it, and it's having that balance of recognizing who we are and, as you say, functioning here in a way that is recognizing that acceptance of who knowledge of who we are, or not knowledge because we don't kind of know, we get that sense of being more than the spirit, the soul.
Mhm.
So it's operating like I kind of say, it's like one foot in each camp, knowing who we are and operating here in a certain way, still expanding, learning, and doing whatever it is that we're here for, whatever the purpose is, and seeing it and unlearning what we need to get rid of and finding truth or what is true beyond that. So it's that, and it's a balancing act.
Yeah, there's this great quote from Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike, who most people think he's like a Satanist and stuff like that. It's like, once again, that's just another thing that I think you should probably re-examine and re-look into. And like you're probably just heard a bunch of freaking nonsense. But there's this great, great quote in Morals and Dogma. It's like a paragraph, and I've read it several times. But he basically says, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he basically says, like, the theater of life is the here and now. Don't be pining for another world and hopes of escaping or looking in the past and worrying or whatever, any of that sort of stuff. Be in the here and now. Do the things you're supposed to do. Like, recognize the present. If all of a sudden a situation or whatever it is, like an opportunity is presented to you, and focus on it. Be in the here and now. You're supposed to do the work that you're here to do. You're supposed to live in the now, be present, that sort of stuff, and let the future, that's for God. You don't worry about that. We're not here to escape. You're here to do the things you're supposed to do. And that's what when we started, I think we started this conversation a little bit about, like, I don't have your talents. There's things that you could do that I can't do. And there's things that I can do that you can't do. I know that for a fact when it comes to all sorts of, like, my friend Brian, like, he comes over and like he'll like fix stuff or whatever. I'm like, how the fuck do you know all this stuff? Like, he's just brilliant with that sort of stuff. I can't do that. So I need to focus on what can I do? God has given me specific strengths, given me a specific, absolutely unique perspective on this world that nobody else has. All right, find out what that is. Find and let it bloom. Feed that thing with all your earth, air, water, and fire, if you will, So, yeah, I think that's what it's all about.
In terms of reincarnation and what you were saying about staying within the dome and not, being with God is beyond words, which absolutely. How do you see near-death experiences? Many people have talked about NDs, and I know all sorts of different experiences. Some of them do say that they recognize there is no time, and they just cannot describe that. There are no words to describe that experience. So, um, what are your views on NDEs and the experiences that people have, and what it is that they're experiencing? I mean, have you thoughts on that? Have you looked into that?
Yeah, I've looked into it a bit. I think a lot of times what you'll have though is people, and I'm not like denying the experiences. I think it's very real. In fact, our neighbor said that when he was like, he's a diehard like literalist Christian. So as far as like mystical stuff is concerned, he's just like, no, none of it, right? But
Mm.
he underwent a surgery, and he said that there was the first time that he had like questioned some of the stuff because while in surgery, he left his body. And he was literally, and you've heard this before, this has happened with people, and then he was like literally looking over as they were doing the surgery. Now, did that actually happen? I don't know, whatever, right? I mean, I'm assuming yes, whatever, but was it just something that was going on in his mind? I don't know, but regardless of any of that, one of the things that does happen though is that you try to explain your experience with the education or the knowledge that you have. And if that knowledge is limited, a lot of times you won't be able to explain something. And especially if something that is really hard to explain, like a near-death experience or like a psychedelic experience, right? And I know this for a fact too, because like a lot of times I would look at something like a long time ago and then I would try to explain it, but I was still lost in space. I was still on a ball. I still believed in whatever honky nonsense they're teaching us, that sort of stuff. So I was trying to explain my experience with the knowledge that I had. And ultimately, it's going to fail, right? Because
Mm.
there's just certain things you don't know. So I think there's some of that going on with NDE, near death experiences. But then again, the thing that the near death experience is also offering us is that this isn't it. You are a journey, a soul on a journey, and there is something else, and there's been enough of those experiences that I think that people, you can't just brush it off. You can't just be like, oh, it's just whatever, right? So as far as like experiencing no time, I mean, I don't like, I've had at least even like younger psychedelic experiences where like you get to like synesthesia. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that or whatever, where it's
No,
like
I
you
haven't.
smell colors or see
I've
sounds or
heard of
like
it.
that. Yeah, like I've experienced that in a deep psychedelic state. And you try to explain that, like you can't. Like, oh, I saw orange. What? Like what? Like you start to fail, right, in being able to explain it because it's something that's so like that sort of thing. Well, you know, that's God. And most mystical experiences, you lose the ability to explain them, and hence why poetry comes in. Hence why art is fills that void. And I found that to be true as well, Hence why I write poetry, So, but
Um, I mean, in some ways that they could be described as other states of consciousness, whatever it is, because you're experiencing something that isn't uh, like this everyday experience that we have. I mean,
yeah, you're trying to explain something metaphysical with physical concepts,
mm,
right? And you're gonna, it's just like explaining the moon, right? Like people explain the
mm,
moon because they think it's physical, but then the
mm,
the moon and part of its cycle disappears. Like you don't see it. It's like literally gone. It's invisible. Well, what happened to the physical thing? So you're trying to explain that with physicality, and it's not. It's metaphysical. As soon as you explain
mm,
it with metaphysical, then it's like you realize it's like, well, it just disappeared. It just went away. That's it. Well, where'd it go? You don't have, there's no language or explanation or anything like that. You can't even prove, like, if you want to go up and touch it and then find out where it went, like, no, you can't do that, right? So, except NASA. NASA can do that, of course, but, so,
yeah, of course,
of
yeah,
course, right?
with its budget. Um, with your church, well, I mean, it's not just that you call yourself a Gnostic, so it's the Gnostic Church. Um, Again, that's another area where you get different people having different. It's like, oh, Gnosticism, oh, that's just New Age rubbish and all that stuff,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I
yeah.
assume you've experienced. So, can you explain to us kind of what real Gnosticism is and why do you think, or is that just again, it's being ridiculed just to get people not to even take any notice of
Not
true Gnosticism?
Gnosticism is based on gnosis, and gnosis
Mm,
is explained very simply. It's knowledge of the heart. That's what it is. It's very simple.
okay.
If you look up the definition of gnosis, they'll just straight up tell you it's knowledge of spiritual mysteries. It's a very straightforward definition. Well, our contention is that you actually don't get to understand any of the mysteries without purification of the heart. If you don't go through a process of, it's not just like knowing stuff, it's actually knowing. It's
Right.
not about what's going on up here. People have loads of information and stuff like that, and they just end up getting top heavy. What the process of gnosis is actually taking all of this other stuff, filtering through the scientific process, the holy sciences, but ultimately through your heart. You get it because the heart is the core. That's like a coronary, right? That's the thing. It's like getting to the core of things, getting to that quintessence, right? And that's really what it's all about. So Gnosticism gets a bad rap because people they lob all of these ideas and notions onto Gnosticism. And if you actually read true people that have experienced gnosis they deny all of this sort of stuff, right? Like the notion that the world is a trap. We don't think that at all. Like, this is not a prison. This is not a trap. There aren't in this sort of sense, like archons trying to whatever. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's like metaphysical things that are trying to, this sort of sense, like things we have to deal with spiritually and mentally and things like that. But it's not a trap. It's not a prison. We don't believe that the world was made by the demiurge. We don't like, all of that sort of stuff. Or the material plane was made by some evil force. We believe in God. We don't read a Gnostic gospel. It's literally all about getting to the core and truth of all things. And when you get there, as we said, what is that constantly like reoccurring theme in the world according to the Trinitarian doctrine, according to alchemy? Beauty. And that's what you get. You get to the core of these things and actually find the beauty of truth. So that's what gnosis is. Anybody that tells you essentially anything else that gnosis is has no idea. I will absolutely say that. I would challenge these people because if you're just honest with it and honest with the Gnostics of the past, they'll just repeat the same thing. Another one people will say is that no, we don't need to get into that. I think we cleared it. I think we cleared it, right? I mean, you get it, right? It's very simple. If it doesn't bring you to a place of love, understanding, then it's not true, and that is all heart work. Period. You know. So that's what gnosis is. And gnosis is also the this is what I was going to say, the direct connection, right? Like I've had that, like thousands of, I mean, I have it or whatever, but as far as like the revelatory experience and like receiving things that I didn't know before that now I teach now, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times now, to a point where like a lot of times I don't even think, I just like receive. You get what I'm saying? So that's what gnosis is. Gnosis is a direct connection to God. And yeah, so
So it's like, you don't know what you're about to say, and you're trusting that whatever is coming through is eh, oh, hmm. Sorry, whatever you need will come through, is what I'm, oh, not need, but whatever you're about to do, whatever you're about to say will come through. It's not that you have to sit and work at it. Like you were saying with your music, with the poetry, it's a, I mean, you could call it intuition. Maybe that's not the right word, but it just is there. It comes through you. Is that
yeah,
what you mean?
it's the like you want answers and you want them from source. Like I was never happy. I was always like had a problem with authority and stuff like that.
No
Younger,
surprise.
right?
What a surprise,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. I'm right. I actually don't have a problem with authority if authority knows what they're doing. My problem with authority is that most authority that claim the authority have no fucking clue what they're doing. So that's my biggest problem. But the other thing about gnosis is like when you get the direct mystical insight and then you can prove it out, you're taking the middleman out of all of it. The middleman becomes Jesus. That's the middleman, right? Like direct connection to Christ, that sort of thing. But speaking specifically in a Christian context, what do most Christians do? Like you have this problem with the Orthodox right now. They just go to the church fathers, and church fathers, and you're not explaining anything. You're not making sense of anything, and then we've got to go to you for the explanation. Gnosis is like, no, you just go straight to the source. You just constantly you're just constantly going at something to find the quintessence because once again when you get to that quintessence you know what you're dealing with. It's God. It's straight up. There's nothing else to it. So um for the longest time I wanted to know if there was a God, right? When I was younger, that was my big contention. I was like, is there, because I was brought in scientism and all this other nonsense, right? And that pursuit of just being so bloody genuine and honest with it is what allowed me to start having the little revelations, like direct connection with God. I don't know how else to say it. I literally have no else. I have nothing else to say other than that. Say, take that as you will. But it was literally just like constantly trying to figure out who I am, purifying myself, figuring out what's true, what's not true, never being satisfied with an answer until the answer was like, oh, I can't deny this, you know? In that pursuit, which was just so brutally freaking honest and still is today, obviously, the amount of personal revelations are off the chart to a point where I just finished writing two books, and that's this year. I'm writing another one. It's like when they say like divinely inspired, that's a real thing. I can tell you 111%. Okay. I've experienced and experienced it today. As a guy that's been a songwriter for years, like I said, many years ago, I'd want to write a song, it'd take me 3 months or whatever. I could do it right now. I have that inspiration right now if I wanted to do that. So that's gnosis. That's what it is. So, and by the way, let me just say this one other thing. If you go online right now and you go on YouTube and you look up any of the algorithms and any of the algorithms that have Gnostic or anything, you will get fed the biggest piles of bullshit I've ever seen in my entire life. It will be channel after channel being like, Archons, they're taking your soul, and this is what Earth is made from, and God's a prick and tyrant or whatever. None of that has anything to do with Gnosticism at all. Okay. So
No, because I was going to say that's the general view of Gnosticism. Did that originate with is it John Lamb Lash, his book? Or is he the originator? Because I mean,
yeah, he's
it's a book I've read. I mean, talking about that, and again, like you say, the archons and whatever. This is a trap. I mean, the idea this is a trap, or the soul trap or prison planet, any of that. None of that has felt right to me. And
no.
sometimes I'm just wondering, oh, if 'cause some people may accuse me, oh, well, you just like spiritual bypassing. You want it all to be, fluffy, rainbows and kittens and all that stuff. And it's like, no. And at the
No.
same time, I don't see why I should be drawn into something that's deep and dark if it doesn't feel right. I'm still, as we all are, learning to work with what feels. You know what I mean? Feels. Kind of you
Yeah,
get that
yeah.
sense of what feels right, um, and that that Archon's prison planet, and so many people are going with that idea. That this is whatever it is. Bad place to be, or you know
Yeah,
all those ideas.
victim consciousness. I mean, that's so huge in
Oh,
our world today. And then also being another big one that I found too is that trying to make an identity for yourself because so many people are lost, which is understandable, right? Like you're lost and you want to just be found. So I'm going to become Catholic, or I'm no, the whole world is against me and everything sucks. So what makes it understandable for me? Oh, the Gnostic archons prison planet. You see all of that sort of happening right now, you know. So, my battery's about to die. Can you give me just 2 seconds? I just got to grab my charger. Is that
yeah,
okay?
sure. I'll pause it. Okay, we're back. We're talking about victim consciousness, which is seems to be rampant everywhere. Possibly because people are just have been again indoctrinated, brought up in believing that other people will look after them so they don't have to do things for themselves. And then if things go wrong, blaming everyone else, not taking responsibility. I mean, how do you, and so that obviously carries on through, there's horrible stuff going on in the world, therefore it's got to be whatever, and we can't do, that idea, air quotes, we can't do anything about it, which I think
Hmm.
obviously is pretty prevalent with the, well, what can we do? But as somebody, and again, forget the number, but as somebody I know recently said, oh, what can I do? Said 7 billion people. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
however many, but it's like forget the number. But it's when everyone realizes, we can all do something. But for some
Hmm.
reason, a lot of people seem to be stuck in that, as you say, the victim consciousness and what can I do, and then blame everything else except not, and that precludes them from looking at themselves and considering what they can do.
Well, in general, I think it's just sort of keeping everybody in an infantilized state. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like just
mm,
generally,
mm,
because and I think a lot of the victim thing comes with just being childish, kind of thing. It's
mm,
like, and once again, we were never taught any of this stuff, as you know. Like,
mm.
so it's not like blaming people or pointing a finger or something like that. It's just trying to like figure out the illness, the disease, if you will, or whatever. So, but the victim thing is huge. I mean, it's pretty much what keeps a lot of people in the state of like not being able to do anything in the world or with their own lives, you know? Um, there's been obviously a ton of hopelessness as well. That's been, especially with the younger generation. It's just like it's really thick. Like you get to see like how much of an agenda this has been. So, that just all of that sort of this is what I mean by people trying to figure out their identities. It's like you've got a lot of people in that state anyway, and then what's presented to them is this absolute nonsense lack of understanding of Gnosticism, and that just fits right in. Oh, the world's a trap and God's a prick, and I'm just all a victim, and all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, I say, and we've been saying this literally for years, like I mean, pretty much as soon as I opened the church, that I mean, I kind of called this. I was like, in the next few years, they're going to be pushing this BS Gnosticism thing because they don't actually want you to know what knowledge of the heart actually is, right? And that's exactly what you see across the board in all the algorithms. And that's the first thing that we have to confront or contend when people come to us. It's like a million obstacles before they get to us because the first thing they're like, "Oh, you're Gnostics. I'm not doing that. You believe in demiurges and no, not at all." Like, like that's just total nonsense. And so for the people that do show up and actually hear what we have to say and then actually start learning this themselves, the breath of fresh air that it brings is just insane. Like you're just, oh my God, like I can start making sense of myself and it's not. And once again, the empowerment that bring in ways that are so beautiful too. And let me give you an example. We have this woman that's at our church and she's, for she's older, and she's been her entire life seeking and trying to, and knew that Jesus was like a good dude, but couldn't stand any of the churches or whatever, right? And she gets to our church and she's like, oh shit, God bless it. Makes so much sense, and just, in it, right? She just shared with us the other week. She was at a grocery store and she was just literally sitting, you know, just watching a few of these people do the checkout, and she said that she could tell that a few of them, they just looked sort of depressed, and you could just tell that they just didn't really like the job or whatever. And so then she just sat and started praying for them. And she said, I would have never done that if it wouldn't have been for your church. And I was like, that's power. You know what I mean? Because that's changing everything about how you view the world. Compassion. You don't even know these people and you're praying for them. Like that's, I don't know. When I hear stories like that, I want to start crying now, because it's just so awesome. You know what I mean? It's just like, man,
Mm.
we just need more of that in the world. And that's what Gnosis actually is. So,
That's what is missing, because of the divide and conquer and making, the other wrong. We have to be, well, not we, some people, because I'm not taking it on for myself. Some people think they have to be right and they have to hold their position, which means other people are wrong. And it has to, it keeps this division, and it keeps people from seeing that we have so much more in common, and we are all different anyway. And that's good that we're different, because that enriches the whole experience. That's why we're different, I think,
yeah.
because why would God want to kind of duplicate or replicate something? Exactly. I mean, even twins are not exactly the same.
It's why it always bothered me with, because we run an order, right? Like we're trying to establish like an order, that kind of thing. And the one thing about like our order is just like, it's so commonsensical stuff. It's not asking you to do anything other than just things you would just come to naturally, right? And one of the things that always bothered me about like orders or groups of people or like the Amish is they all dress the freaking same. They all wear, like, it's like there's no
Mm.
individuality or no central, like if you go to the Amish, right? And no offense to the Amish, whatever, blah, but name me your favorite Amish painter. It doesn't exist. Why? Because they've sucked out the individuality of themselves so much and become this sort of autonomous thing that any like individual, the flowering that you could do that's unique to you is completely sucked out. All the art is sucked out, all the personal, whatever, you're writing poetry or songs and you're pouring yourself into like words, and all of that's gone. And it's like, you miss the point. Like, no, we're all unique. Like, I'm different than my wife, and my wife is different than you. And there's a reason for that, and God wants us to figure out what those things are and freaking shine. And the other thing about it, I've found that when people do that, that's what attracts people to you. Authenticity, realness, and your individuality. Like something is unique about Marty. He's a really unique guy. Yeah, so are you. Right? I just spent my time just trying to figure out what those things are and then just literally letting it bloom. So,
Because we're not encouraged to, let's just like be proud. I mean, I don't know if that's the right thing, but to kind of, shine our own light and to say, no, this is what I can do. This is what I am here to do, or what I can do, or what I feel is right for me to be doing. I mean, in the moment, again, that may change. And
mhm.
it's to say, no, this is, stand up and say, this is me. I am being the best version of me, and that's fine. And somehow go, oh, you're being proud. And so, so there you go, another seven deadly sins. I mean, they're not deadly sins,
Yeah, yeah,
really. I mean, I don't know. How do you see what it's like, whatever they are? I mean, they're not pride. See, again, there's pride and there's pride. There's nothing wrong with shining
yeah.
your light in a way that you like you do. You're shining your light knowing that you're coming from the right place. And I think that's the point. It's okay if you're coming from the heart with doing what you're doing. This, so like you said, oh, 20 years ago, it's like, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, somebody said I'd be doing it. I was like, no, that's not me. That's not me.
Yeah.
And yet here I am. And you go, okay, yes, thank you. I hear you, and I'm doing what I'm doing. It feels right.
Well, I get it. I get it like at least through the years I've gotten this because I'm very confident about what I teach and things.
Mm,
And so much, I mean, I give my opinions on things and blah 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 blah, but so much of the things that we teach are just like they're absolutely irrefutable. Like if I
mm,
teach you the phalanges of your hands and that it's the seventh triangular number, that's not my opinion. I like it's just not like there's so much of what we do that's there. And I'm very confident because I've actually gone through a process of like breaking myself down and figuring out who I am and then actually coming to truths that if I tell you, there's 6 ways to Sunday, you're going to be able to prove that kind of thing. So that because of such confidence, that can come off as egotistical to somebody that doesn't have a lot of confidence or is in a victim state or stuff like that. So then you're sort of playing it's like, no, I don't think I'm like some special boy over everybody. I worked my ass off though, and I know what I'm fucking talking about, and I'm going to be confident in saying that, and if that comes off as egotistical to you or prideful or something like that, I really don't care at all. Like that's your thing. It's got nothing to do with me. I know who I am. The people that are around me know who I am and that sort of stuff. So, um, yeah, there's a lot of that. Pride is just basically the pride, and they're talking about a sense like, no, I'm right, and then you find out you're wrong, and then you just continue on with being right or wrong or whatever. It's just like, no, that doesn't help anybody with anything. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help your family. It doesn't help your community. It doesn't help truth. So, yeah.
yeah, that's great. And in terms of numbers and stuff and whatever, like you say, things that can be proven. Because I know you do a lot of gematria, and like not everyone kind of is happy with numbers. I mean, I don't know why. I'm fine, and we call it maths over
Hmm.
here. And the reason I think it may be the reason is because it's the shortened form of mathematics. So for
Hmm.
some reason, it's obviously kept that we've kept the S, but that's fine. That's my view. So a lot of there's something like with science. Oh, it's too tricky for people, and like the maths as well. Sometimes is too tricky, and I've not had a problem with numbers, maths, and stuff. Um, but are there different systems? Because I know the system that you use, it just does maps perfectly with all the numbers, and it's just amazing every time you go through different numbers and how you see that as well, how quickly you see all the different parts, or does it take time to work out when you're going through a particular text? I mean, like you did with DNA, with all of that, with the actually you did it for quite a few aspects
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that video.
yeah.
um I, I don't know if some people are put off by it, but when you look at it and you see it and just go, it just matches, and it cannot be a coincidence. It cannot possibly be. So, I mean, if you want to, I know it's a huge topic, but because you
Yeah.
obviously, we're not using a screen, so it might be difficult for people to conceptualize, but just to explain the system and how that works.
Well, let me first say, like, as far as like my own abilities, like they've even in the last couple of years have been exponentiated like crazy. Like, in fact, Dr. Steve, when we were at Elementals, like he came up to me and like one of the first things he says is like you can just look at anything and decode it now. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I was just like, I don't know. It's because I've worked on that skill so long now.
Mm,
Like I've so intuited it to a point where it's just like if you ask a mechanic to change oil, like he's just done kind of thing.
mm,
And that once again sounds cocky or something like that. But I don't know what
yeah.
else to say about that. It's like I'm a master Kabbalist. I've totally mastered that art and can explain it and write about it and teach it and all of that sort of stuff. So when it comes to the particular ciphers, like the thing that we've showed is that regardless of what you think about English or anything that we do, there is absolutely, without question or controversy, you can go to linguists, philologists, professors of language all around the world, and they will just look at the history of languages. And you know what you will find? Numbers attached to numbers attached to letters, or numbers attached to alphabets. Okay. This is just, and like I knew about this long before I'd ever discovered the septenary cipher, which is what we'll obviously get to here. I just knew that because it was just something that I had read. It was like, oh, well, that's weird. Like, why are number, what the hell does any of that mean kind of thing, right? And there's this one book that my friend gave me that it's like, it's extensive. Like, he goes through and talks about the history of how people use numbers, the importance of the base 10 system, why that's been like universal. He goes in and talks about, look at Greek, here's Arabic, here's the Egyptian, like all of these things have numbers attached to it, right? So then you get to this question like, what's that? Like, what? Like, that was my question. Like, how does it work? That sort of thing. Then specifically, you see that all of these languages have very specific number ciphers attached to them. Like, right? Like Greek is the isosophy, I think is how you say that, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Like that's just how it works, you know? So then I got to a point of essentially asking the question is like, well, does English have a cipher? Is English have math, right? Because we always look at English and we're like, is this just some cobbled together mess of a language? It's just evolved from blah. And to me, looking at the language, I'm like, no, there's something else going on here. There's not just some haphazard, evolved from nothing mess of our language. No, it works perfectly. We can communicate with one another. There's no overarching authority or normative authority to carry it along through the years. Yet all of these rules and stuff like that, we still agree on. How? How? Well, if you ask a Kabbalist, they'll just straight tell you it's God, dummy. God is in our language, God himself. And this is how directly involved the creator is in the creation. Like he's with us all the time. So then I mean, it was a revelation. It's what it was. It was an absolute moment of clarity. It was an absolute like, here, Marty, here it is. And the cipher spilled out in probably a minute and a half one night. Like literally just, I split the alphabet in half and I walked up to 7 and walked back down. And as soon as I did it, I was like, whoa, right? Like tingles, like all the stuff started firing, like something's going on here. And then it's just been the pursuit of actually proving that out over the years, showing how Shakespeare talked about it, how the Rosicrucians talked about it, how the Freemasons talked about it, how it's encoding mathematical constants that nobody can deny. Nobody. Pi, tau, the geometry of the cube, squaring numbers are all encoded in the cipher that we're using. And so once he got to that, it was just kind of like, you know, this is a whole nother level of reality that essentially nobody knows about, and yet it's brilliant, it's coherent, it's self-referential, it's demonstrable and verifiable, it follows laws of science, and then not only on top of that, there's this creative element to it. There's a creative aspect to it that only a person that in one essence has worked on his creative aspect of his soul his entire life. Well, that's me. I mean, I've been writing songs since I was 15 years old. I've been a voracious reader since I was 15 years old. I wanted to know. I hounded God in one sense. And he's like, here, you want to know? Are you sure? Are you sure? Can you handle it? Okay, here you go. And I think I've proven out that I can handle it, you know? So yeah, that's it. So that's where the gematria cipher comes from, and we've gone to show that they're using it. Number one, it is the cipher for the English for the Bible. You can also use the same cipher as I've shown in multiple books to go into French, Spanish, German. Absolutely, absolutely. So people are like, well, what about other languages? We talk about that as well. So, and then not only that, we can show that yes, like so one of the main things that this cipher encodes is pi, which is this transcendental number in the category of math. It's very, very mysterious and all of this sort of stuff. Well, that's the focus of this cipher. That's how you can explain the geometry of creation. And then what do you find in DNA? Them encoding pi four different ways in deoxyribose nucleic acid, straight up. It's not fudging with math. It's like, and some of them, it's literally just reduce it down, divide. That's it. That's intention. That's some wickedness. And they're using God's language in this sort of sense to manipulate our minds, you know? So once again, the language thing becomes so important because how do you fight back? Do you need to know all the intricacies and nuances of gematria to fight the evil Kabbalistic dark wizards. No, just stop saying DNA. Just stop believing in bullshit atoms. Just stop, stop all
Mm.
of it, and you have that power. And it's absolutely true. So, you know,
Yes, I mean that's it with, well, what can we do about it? Well, plenty. And it is to know that our words have power, our minds have power, our intentions, so using them all together. I think more and more people are aware, maybe not quite putting it into practice in terms of their words, thinking they've got to go out there and do something. It's interesting that you say it's that ciphers in Shakespeare as well. And when you say Shakespeare, I assume you're talking about Francis Bacon, or do you
or
have
who
different?
or whoever he was. Yeah,
Do
like
you?
I
Oh,
like
right, okay. No, no. I mean,
because
it's not the guy
yep,
from Stratford-on-Avon.
yep.
I've done well. I mean, I've looked at various places, and there are a number of sources, and I know I might be sounding like an old record, but I'm convinced that Francis Bacon was definitely not necessarily the sole author, but he was definitely a key part of that body of work.
I think there's another guy that had talked about how it's possibly Edward de Vere too. I don't
Yeah,
know if you've
yeah, no,
known
I know.
that.
I've heard that as well. And yeah,
Uh,
he died before the works were completed, and so he didn't know some of the things that were then encoded into the later book. So it's possible
uh,
he was what's called one of the pens. This is like a group of people.
yeah,
That's the
I
idea,
that
that it was a group, in which case there would have been a number of contributors to the works, but Francis Bacon would have been the core manager of it all, if you like, the leader of the group, if you like, who put it all together in whatever way. Um, because also I've I, I'm not obsessed with him. I'm really not. At the same time, I came across a book that explained that he is almost certainly the author of Don Quixote, and it wasn't Cervantes,
oh,
because
okay.
you've not come across that one, because
Nope. Mm,
because the way the book is written, it's kind of quite positive towards England, and anyway, just so many aspects of it. I mean, obviously, described in the book, but so many parts of it where, when you put the parts together, it couldn't have been Cervantes, because he was where he was, and he was in jail. Again, he didn't have the linguistic abilities, because there's it's a big book, and there's lots in it.
mhm.
And it points in the direction of Francis Bacon as well. And as I've mentioned to you, that again, according to another book, which I can share with you if you like, that Francis Bacon actually was in charge of the group of translators of the King James Bible. So
Hmm.
that wouldn't surprise me, that if he's, because Shakespeare, the works of Shakespeare are supposed to have really developed the English language in the same way that the
Yeah, they have.
French language had been developed sometime before. I can't remember. It's like, I don't know the time difference, but like the previous century. So that those works actually are. It's almost like an embodiment of a new language, or an expanded language. And it wouldn't surprise me if you know there was a lot encoded in there as well, because these aren't just straight stories that somebody made up. There's so much in them, in all sorts of levels, that kind of related to things going on historically, as well
As
as well as esoterically. So
Yeah, as far as Shakespeare being like Shakespeare, no, I don't think so at all, right? I'm pretty sure it's. I mean, I haven't read that much Shakespeare, but the things I have read, I love. Of just, I mean, I just eat it up because it's so well read. It's just so good. I think it's probably a guild of writers for sure. I don't really see how maybe one person could do all that or that sort of stuff. That's fine, but it just seems like that would be the case.
mm, mm,
So as far as like Francis Bacon or any of those guys, I don't know because I don't really know that history. We can't go back in history and find out, but that wouldn't surprise me at all. I can tell you this without question or controversy, and we did a Midsummer's Night's Dream. We did, I think it was like a 4 or 5 hour deconstruction of that play. It is like everything, like every tool that you use to deconstruct the Bible is the exact same way that you deconstruct Shakespeare. In other words, it's celestial, it's based on astrotheology. If you want to understand who the characters are, you have to go into the meanings of their names. Like, what does Oberon mean? What does Titania mean? Right? You go into those, and then you can start actually placing them in the heavens. You can actually go and pick apart the language that they're using, and specific lines point exactly where they are in the heavens. It's, in fact, once you see it, you're like, oh, geez. And other people have come up with this too. It's not just, I'm not the only one or anything like that, but by any stretch.
I I'd like
But
to watch that.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's like, the other thing is it's and this is once again what Steve and I have really been hitting hard lately. In fact, we got a video going live tonight about this, is that it's all inverted alchemy. That's what modern science is doing. So when you actually get to these real things like the Bible and Shakespeare and stuff like that, what is it? It's alchemy. You won't be able to understand it without it. You just won't. Okay. In Midsummer's Night's Dream, one of the things that you find is in alchemy is this notion of the unity of opposites, right? And it's no different than looking at the ether. What is the ether? It's the unity of opposites. It's heaven and earth. It's spirit and matter. It's metaphysical and physical, but they're not separate. They're with God and one. This theme is all over Midsummer's Night's Dream. Almost every scene is a unity of opposites in every single one. And so here you have the Shakespearean works, which are absolutely encoded with gematria. In fact, they give you keys to let you know it is. And I could give you a few examples there, but it's encoded with gematria, which means it has that geometric aspect to it. It's cosmological and it's alchemical. And if you take these, once again, these studies to it, all of a sudden the works of Shakespeare, like how many people read Shakespeare and they have no fucking idea what's going on, right? Or they'll pick up because they read something in college and it was told to them. No, you can absolutely understand Shakespeare. You can absolutely understand who the characters are, that sort of stuff. But what do you need? This knowledge system. So whoever Shakespeare, the point is, whoever Shakespeare was, Francis Bacon, the writers of the Bible, they absolutely knew this holy science. They absolutely knew it. Okay. And they're showing us that they knew it. And this is why these works are so heralded, right? I mean, if you were going to name two book or like whatever, like two writings or whatever, it's like the works of Shakespeare and the Bible, right? You're not, at least as English speaking people, I don't really think you're going to get any better than that. Well, you can absolutely prove that those things are astrotheological, they're alchemical, they're Kabbalistic, and they're genius. They're genius, you know. So
And they appeared at around the same time.
yep,
And
exactly.
that
Yep.
time that ties in with Francis Bacon. I mean, I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
just him, but as you say, that guild of writers, and what you've just said about Midsummer Night's Dream, which was one of the plays that I read a number of times at school or whatever. I loved it too. And the so what you've just said though is another data point for me in connecting them as being written by, or not necessarily written by, but like the Bible, the translated, the way it's
Mm-hmm.
translated, and then with the language that's used, it sounds very much like there's a connection there.
The other thing too that is interesting about when you look at these writers, or if you look at the people that built the like the Gothic cathedrals and stuff like that. Like what's the theme? Essentially, nobody signed it, right? Like, or if somebody did, it was a pseudonym, right? Like that kind of thing, right? Like, and so it's a bunch of people that are writing these epic works that are encoding all of these holy sciences and stuff like that. And then, as far as we could tell, then they create a pseudonym and they don't even take credit for it, right? Like they created William Shakespeare, right? And so everybody, all these, yet as you and I probably were pretty convinced that well, that's not a real dude, like that sort of thing. So then it's like, then you have to get into the mindset of the people that were writing it and translating it and doing all these works. They didn't want to take any credit for it. Why? Well, why? Well, let me ask you, like, I don't put my name on my books, right? My name isn't even Marty Leeds. Why did I do that? I didn't give a shit. I didn't care about taking credit for it. I don't care about taking credit for things that maybe I personally discovered in our time, but that I don't own. I don't have a copyright to. They're not mine. They're holy. So the first thing, but this was what it inspired me, inspired me. I was like, I don't give a shit if this ever comes back to me at all. I don't care at all. What do I actually care about? Does the next generation are they actually educated? That's what I care about. Are your children going to have to go through the same rigmarole bullshit of lies that no, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen. That's what I care about. I'm showing that's what I care about. Apparently, a bunch of these people back in the day, they had the same, you know, compassion or whatever, right? They didn't care about ego. They didn't care about whatever. Like, no, let's just build something so amazing, so beautiful, it lasts for generations upon generations. That's what they cared about. And apparently it works because you and I are talking about it right now, you know?
Well, yes, because that's 400 years ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if we're going to kind of do the time thing, but again, it's
Mm-hmm.
like let's not get into that. So yeah, with the yeah, that's a really good point. With these works that are not, um, the authors are not necessarily taking credit, partly because they've got so much. Like you say, that they're esoteric, and there's even with choosing the name of William Shakespeare,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't, oh, we'll just use his name. It wasn't. It was deeper than that. It wasn't just let's just pick a guy and give him credit. It wasn't that at all. There's so many aspects to it because again, there are different spellings of the different names. So it's
Mm-hmm.
to not give people information. So it's almost like we were talking about before we even started recording. Or maybe we've talked about it through this because it's like a couple of hours ago. But it's help encouraging people to think for themselves as opposed to giving them the information. So it's not it's helping man to fish as opposed to giving him a fish. So it's helping people think for themselves, and again, like this is dawn of discernment. So, helping people get the discernment for themselves as opposed to just feeding them the stuff because it doesn't go in the same way.
Yeah, if I can say, one of the
Yeah.
things I found over the years, it's like the consistent theme thing. Like when you look at alchemy, works of
Mm.
Shakespeare, the Bible, what I see those as they're riddles. Like that you don't
Yeah.
understand them right away, right? They get you to question things. We're
Mm.
constantly going over what does this actually mean? And what those people were doing is, as you're saying, they're teaching you to fish. They're trying to get
Mm.
you to think and be like, what does this mean? Figure it out, study, question it, go into the depths of your soul, whatever, right? If somebody just comes and gives it to you, then what? It's just not valued, right? Like
Mm.
here's a plate of gold. Well, I don't care. If you got to work for it, though, then like you get the gold, and then you actually understand its value and you understand the toils that it took to get to that. As far as I can tell, that's what's going on with a
Mm.
lot of these writings. And the Bible is a perfect example of this because as you can see today, how many people are arguing over it, they're questioning it, it's created all these denominations. But what is none of these traditions besides ours, I hate to say that. I don't even hate to say it, it's just true. Essentially, what do they do? Like they don't accept it as a riddle at all. They accept it as like this is true, it's history, this is what it is. And then they come to zero conclusions or you know, they don't know anything. They can't explain anything. They're still lost in a million different, lies and wizard narratives of the world and stuff like that. You treat it as a riddle. You treat it as something that's literally there to challenge you so that your consciousness will open up. Then then it's like, "Oh, that makes sense. That's you can see why they wrote these things then, right?
Mm.
Because they're trying to get you to be like, break out of your box. You were put
Yes.
in a little box in your little zeitgeist, right? And they told you to think all this other stuff, and this is no, 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 no. You can break out of it, right? And yeah, I think that's what's
People,
going on. So
yeah, people won't break out of it if they're fed the information. As you say, they take it as literal and they're fed the information, and it doesn't give them anywhere to go. That it doesn't give them anything to contemplate
yeah.
because, as you say, they've been given the answer. I mean, that's yeah, absolutely. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, with uh, kind of start to bring this towards a close because if you're happy, but um, like you said, you've
Dawn,
written.
Dawn, I've got all the time for you. So whatever you want to do, I don't care.
Oh,
I'm serious.
no,
That's
I know.
whatever you want
Thank
to do.
you. Thank you. Well, I was just going to say to talk about your books because what you have incorporated into your different books. There's different themes in each of them. Well, I mean, one of them is about Gnosticism, so it explains. So if anyone wants to know about Gnosticism, one of
Yeah.
Marty's books explains that.
The last two books that we released at the same time. It was called The Way of the Gnostic. And
Yes.
basically, that's a conglomeration of essentially all the books, different chapters of each one. And it sort of does an overview of Gnosticism. And it goes through like cosmology and like what the demiurge is and what people's claims about that. And is it a prison? Like all of that. And we just basically bat all of that stuff away. And then once again, actually explain what's going on. And I like to think in pretty simple terms for the most part. I try to do that with my writing anyway. So that's the one book, The Way of the Gnostic. And then the other one that we just released is called The Keys to the Tarot. I had to think about what I call the book, The Keys to the Tarot. And that's, I think, 500 some pages of basically showing all the cosmology and the symbolism and all of it and the structure of the tarot and like what it is and it's not divination like we go through like meticulously. So the first half is actually of that book is basically looking at the structure of the tarot, some of the history, what it actually is, that sort of stuff. And then the latter half of the book is actually going through each card and then describing the symbolism and all of that sort of stuff. And what the funny thing is that what we show is that it's completely like you really can't understand the tarot fully without a Christian lens because there's literally Christian themes in the tarot. And the thing that we point out is that if you asked any Christian, like, oh, do you read the tarot? No, that's obviously the demonic, heretical, blasphemous, whatever. And so it's like it's laughable. It really is. It's like, no, that's completely a Christian thing, actually. The tetramorph, by the way, is on two of the cards specifically. It's specifically Christian. So that was the other book that we had just released, and then I'm releasing and hopefully another one this year called Alchemical Christ, and the Zodiac is the key to the mysteries, and that's actually showing how at least the English name of Christ encodes the seven planets, the periodicity of the seven planets, like straight up in his name. So yeah, and then the rest of the books we have like Scripture in the Stars, which once ago that's just chapter by chapter by being like, hey, here's Saint John in the wilderness eating locusts and wild honey and wearing a loincloth, or it's Orion. Like basically that. Like we're just constantly taking all these stories, Adam and Eve and Noah's Ark, and like showing them in the heavens, right? And then yeah, so there, and I don't know what else we have. We did
No,
a book.
that's.
Yeah, like there we have like I think like I said 10 some books. So we have a children's book. Yeah.
Oh yes.
So and
Yes. I have a few and I have and read a few, so haven't got the whole set yet, but haven't worked my way through that. So all your books are available on your website. So that's gnosticacademy.org, isn't it? Yes.
yeah, we only have one book on Amazon. The rest are exclusively through our site. So if you want to get our books, you literally have to come to us. So
Oh, right. Excellent. That's good. Yes. Is that because you have a problem with Amazon or you just prefer to do them yourself?
well, I mean, a little of both. Like I got off Amazon originally. We went to Lulu, but mainly like if we sell our books on Amazon, we basically make no money. Like because of the cost of books and all the other stuff, like if we were going to sell the tarot book for what we sell it on the site for, they take so much that we would make like maybe a buck and a half a book or something. Like that's how much they take.
Wow.
I think we sell, it's expensive because we just have to. We don't like, we're out of options. Like we just have to, right? The Keys to the Tarot book or excuse me, the Way of the Gnostic book is on Amazon and it's a paperback and we're charging like 35 bucks because it's like, it costs us like $17 to print or so. It's like crazy expensive. And then they pretty much take everything from that. We would get like, I think our numbers was like 88 cents a book or something, which means we would have to sell 100,000 books to even whatever, right? And so So we charge a little bit more. They're really nice books. They're all hard, save for the children's book, they're all hardcovers. And
I
I'll
was
just
just going
say
to say that's
this.
the other thing. They're hard. Yes, they're hardbacks, not just paperback.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're definitely
But
more
the
expensive.
Yeah, but the other thing is we don't even mind, and like this once again might sound cocky or whatever, but they're worth every penny. Like there just are. Like if you spend $50 on the Lord Jesus Christ book, you could study that book the rest of your life. I'm not even joking. Like not joking at all, not exaggerating. So we put, I mean, it's intensities in those books. Like they're high quality. You're good. Like we always say, like if at least for a lot of people, you read one of these books, you're going to change your perspective on things. You just will, because you're going to be opened up to a lot of things that you didn't know, or a lot of things that you thought you knew, but you didn't, or whatever. So, yeah, anyway. So there's my plug.
Pie in the English alphabet, isn't it? Is another one.
There's another one where that's basically explain the cipher and then explain how you can find it in, calendars and chess and yeah, like the
And your
hands
hands.
and
Mm,
all of it, like yeah, I mean, just that book alone is a pretty powerful one, I think, because once again, it just opens you up to like, hey, did you know that the game of chess is encoded? And do you know what it encodes? Pi, like all over the thing, It's just like
yes.
once again, it's this self-referential thing. The same thing that you'll find in the Bible, the same thing that you will find centered in the septenary cipher, the same thing you will find in chess, you'll find in DNA. And then you get to realize, oh, wait a second, what are they doing? What are these wizards doing? Mock at God. That's what they're doing. Just to let you know, everybody, if you're listening, they're mocking your God. So,
Mm. So we take back our understanding of this place and come out of fear. And any other thoughts that you'd like to share, particularly before we wind up, or
no,
anything you'd
just
like to cover that we?
no, just we do service every Sunday at 9 a.m.
Oh
if you'd
yes,
like
yeah.
to. Yeah. And sometimes you see Dawn there, which is great. And every Sunday,
Oh,
and it's
in the
always in
chat, not actually. No, not actually. It's like
no in the chat.
in the
Yes,
chat.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Dawn's being a creeper and showing up on our property. No, I'm just kidding. Um, yeah, that's it. So if you're interested in, more, there's loads. We have, most of the stuff also we don't have online. It's in our archives. There's a lot of reasons for that too, just because controversial stuff and like all that sort of thing. So, but they're just the stuff that we have online for absolutely free. Like once again, like if you spent a weekend watching this stuff, like you're gonna have a completely different perspective on your world. I can guarantee it. So, and that's what we found with people. So there's my shameless plug.
No, not yeah, absolutely shameless. The yeah, so the links to your Rumble channel, your YouTube channel, and your website will be in the show links below. So thank you so much, Marty. I really appreciate this. Yeah, we've gone around all sorts of places on this conversation and come back to it's up to us to take responsibility and see the lies for what they are and find the truth that's within and live from that truth.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is right now there is a lot of people out there that like you can learn from a lot of people, There's a lot of people that are doing really good work and which can help you, Like I mean, I'll just, Dr. Cowan is a great example. There's a guy that's really out there that you can tell he's really, really trying to get to the bottom of a lot of this stuff, and benefit from those people. You know what I mean? That's what they're there for. So, and that's why we're here. So, Dawn, it's always so lovely. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate you. We've met several times, and it's always been like, oh my God, no, Dawn. So we
I
appreciate it.
know.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
hopefully it won't be too long before we meet up again. So, and again,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
always lovely to see you. We'll see. I just wasn't able to get out to elementals, but we'll see.
We'll drag you
So
out next year. We'll drag you
oh,
out next year.
that'd be good. Yes. Yeah. I'll see
Yeah.
what I can do. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.